Hello, everybody, and welcome to The High Ground, where we recap all things Obi-Wan Kenobi here on Silent Podcasts, where we're anything but silent. I am your host, Katie, and I am here with my co-host, Naomi. Naomi, how are you doing today?
I am so great. I am sneaking through the Empire base with my phone on speakerphone and hoping that nobody hears me. I'm so happy to be here.
You lost your AirPods too? It's like weird. It seems to be going around these days.
Yeah. I'm ruining everyone's day with my phone on speakerphone on the plane,
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough out there. I love your BB-8 in frame. I know he was supposed to come in last time. You put him there, right?
Yeah, there's like a 90% chance I'm going to knock this over before the end of the podcast, so we'll see how it goes.
It's okay. We do not have Isaiah with us this week, but we have a very special guest with us. Some of you may know him as Glances. Some of you may not know him at all. His name is Matt. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm ready to dive into this episode and then pop up into a base.
into the podcast base.
Maybe multiple times and multiple medias. Yeah.
You just unlocked a bigger mystery than anything that the 6 episodes of Obi-Wan could have done, which is I had no idea you were Glances, Matt. This is fucking hilarious.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's just like Glances still do.
We're making connections here on Silent Podcasts. Yeah, you guys can all follow Glances on Twitch. We'll give him time to plug himself later in the episode.
Yeah, no rush.
Matt, what we've done every time so far is kind of give our Star Wars history. What's your favorite Star Wars movie? What's your history with Star Wars? When did you start watching? Who's your favorite Jedi?
Oh my God.
No pressure.
Yeah,
why is it not Yoda?
So I don't hate Yoda as much as Katie does. We get into like spats about this, I think, pretty frequently every time I bring it up. But okay, so I got into Star Wars when I was very young. I think one of my earliest memories was they did a re-release of episode 4, 5, and 6 in the theaters. They they spread them out a little bit, but that was like my dad pulled me out of school. He was really excited. He pulled me out of school. We went in and we saw episode 4, and I was like, it was amazing, right? It was such a good time. I just wanted to get out of school. I don't really care what we were seeing, but I remember loving the movie and getting super into it. I don't know when it came out. I have to look it up, but that's when I started getting into Star Wars like really heavily. Started playing a lot of the games, saw the prequels. It was just a good time. Favorite movie? It changes with time. I would say like an Empire is just like a very easy answer,
Yeah.
But I really like Rogue One. I wouldn't say it's my favorite. I really like Episode 3. And I really like The Phantom Menace, but everyone hates The Phantom Menace. But there's
I'm pretty low on The Phantom Menace.
I love The Phantom Menace because I love Qui-Gon Jinn. Who is probably my favorite Jedi. Yeah. So
that's a good choice for favorite Jedi. It's fair. The Qui-Gon Jinn factor of Phantom Menace puts it probably higher than it should be on the list. But
do you know why he's my favorite?
Also, Duel of the Fates is amazing.
Duel of the Fates is great. Darth Maul's a cool character. My brother loved Darth Maul growing up. It's so cool. But I like him because he like doesn't care. He's like not like, oh, very Jedi. We got to be super Jedi. He's almost like he's the grayest Jedi that we can find in movies, in the movies basically, right? There's a lot of extended media with like middle of the road Jedi, like KOTOR 2, which is whatever. But he's like in the films, or he's like the only one that can be as closest to like a middle of the road Jedi, which I really like.
Yeah, if we ever do kind of like a character breakdown, I know Isaiah kind of said that last time, and I think it's a great idea. I would love to talk about Anakin in general and just like how Qui-Gon's influence could have totally changed the outcome of his life, which obviously that's why it's the tragedy of Darth Vader, right? But I totally agree. I think, Qui-Gon is the man. Shout out to Qui-Gon. Maybe we'll get him in the show. They were alluding pretty heavily to it, except we haven't seen him yet, and there's only 2 episodes left.
He's got to be in.
So we talked a little bit before we kicked off the podcast, just about our general temperature of the episode. I'm going to come out and say right now that I don't know that any of us are very high on this episode. I don't want to speak for anybody, but I know myself over the last 3 episodes, I feel like I've been relatively positive, mostly positive on this show. This episode tanked my positivity rating down a little bit of this series.
We've been very kind, Katie. I think you're putting it mildly. We've been very nice.
Listen, I think it's because I'm just happy to have this show existing and just happy to have Star Wars and more Obi-Wan. But Naomi, I think you're right. I think maybe we've been a little too kind to the show.
Yeah, and look, I I always try to stick it through when it comes to Star Wars, right? Marvel,
Mhm.
I watched like 2 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I said, "No, thank you. I'm done here now." But in Star Wars, it's like I will watch Boba Fett forever because I love that we are bringing back Tamora Morrison. I love that we are giving people opportunities that have otherwise been written out of the Star Wars world. And
Totally.
also actors who are not just like straight white men. I think that's really cool that Star Wars gets
Mhm.
to expand so much. However, Star Wars, like the children I used to babysit, like the younglings I used to have to watch over, tests my patience every fucking day of my life and makes me never want to watch Star Wars again.
Yeah, it's been one of those weeks. It's been one of those weeks. I made the mistake of staying up until 3 in the morning as if I'm like a tween or something. I don't know what I was thinking.
Mm.
But you know, I was up. I was just doing something else. It was like 2:15. Then I was like, you know what? I may as well stay up. I had a long day throughout. Like you know, I had a long day, so coming up the next day. So I was like, let me watch it so I don't get spoiled. And I don't think I could have regretted it more
Mm.
because it wasn't a good episode.
No, not at all. Matt, I'm curious, like your gut reaction because I think we all know what the basic sentiment is, but like, what did you feel in your heart of hearts when you watched this?
My heart of hearts. Well, oh, I feel the same way. I've been trying to give it slack the whole time and just like see it as a whole and not try to judge too harshly because I feel like I went into Boba Fett with the mentality of like I don't want this. Don't give me this. And so it was hard to like sway me to like the point where I was like I enjoy it. Right. This time I'm like this is something I want to like, right? So I really really want to like it. It seems like it's going to be the last time that these people are going to be on screen together or like within the Star Wars universe. And this is the first episode where I was like, all right, let me put all my thoughts together. And okay, as a whole, this makes no sense. Why are you doing it? Just why are you doing it? So I didn't like it. I didn't like it. There were some parts I liked. Most of the parts I didn't like at all. So that's how I felt.
Yeah, I think I can pick out a couple of things that I really did like about this episode, but I mostly just about hated everything about it. But there are a few things that I think if they do the right thing with them, we could be on a good path. I think the main thing that really irritated me about this episode is just the length. There's no
Mm.
reason why, with a 6 episode series, with a budget as large as this, and with a story so important as this, especially after some of the reception that some of the movies have gotten. Boba Fett didn't get a huge. I mean, I know obviously they can't do anything with Boba Fett, but like you know, Obi-Wan was probably in post production by the time Boba Fett was airing, right? But it's like you didn't get the greatest reception from Boba Fett. Half of the show really was The Mandalorian. So this was supposed to be like the next like big show that wasn't The Mandalorian, right? It's only 6 episodes. It's a limited series. Why are we doing 25-minute long episodes? Why are we rushing through this at like a jaguars are fast or cheetah's pace? I don't know. You know, some fast
Sure,
animals
they're both
pace,
fast, I guess,
like a marathon. We're running a marathon here,
Yeah.
and we're treating it like it's a sprint. And I just don't understand. I don't understand the reason for it. I don't feel like we've ever been given a real reason as to why we're only getting 6 episodes. I thought the rumor a long time ago was that each episode was supposed to be maybe an hour or so. I'm just confused at the decision making.
Yeah. For me, the most confusing part of this is that we are at episode 4 out of 6, and we have no Reva backstory whatsoever. That is
Nothing.
my big gripe of the episode. An episode that is about torturing a child. An episode that is about causing harm to a young girl.
Right.
And we have a young girl who has probably experienced a lot of harm growing up. And we
Right.
couldn't at all think about a way to tie those stories together. My
Right.
mind is blown that that is such a failure of a storytelling moment. And also like, is it going to be like a twist? Is it going to be a twist on the choose in the beginning? And that's not a good twist because literally you showed a bunch of kids in the beginning that had nothing to do with the story. So I can take a fucking guess, you know, like this is
Exactly.
where I'm like tugging on my hair and being like, please, just give me something good, or I will have to go and like write it myself and do like some Lego stop motion stuff in my parents'
Yeah.
basement, you know?
After we're done with this podcast and the series is over, we're just going to start a fan fiction podcast and just rewrite everything that we've already seen. And we'll probably, I mean, at least we'll be the same. We might not be better, but we'll at least be on par with the product they gave us this episode.
I
It was
get
just
dibs
terrible.
I get dibs on the Wade storyline. I'm gonna flesh out Wade so
Oh.
fucking much.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about Wade. Let's jump in the episode. Matt, any top line story, anything you wanna add to what we were just saying, or should we jump into the episode?
Well, just a little bit. That's a really good point, Naomi, about uh, they had the perfect opportunity to do the backstory there. I didn't even think about that. Where it's like she's interviewing, very aggressive.
Interviews are polite
She's
way of
trying to
putting
hire
it.
her for a job.
she's very she's basically about to torture a little girl, which is that's a really good callback to like I don't know trauma in her own life. It's a perfect time to do a callback. I don't know why. Anyway, this episode really reminds me of how I felt about the sequels, like the pacing and just the overall narrative. This is the rushing. That's it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think after the reception that the prequels have gotten, and the fact that they took almost all the movies that they had planned off the table to kind of rethink their strategy here, and we're still getting rushed, too short, not fully fleshed out stories, it just doesn't make sense to me. And I think we talked a little bit about this right before we started recording, but is Dave Filoni involved in this? And if so, how involved is he? Is Jon Favreau involved in this? Because I feel like if either one of them were more heavily involved, maybe we would be getting a little bit more of a thought through story. Like Dave Filoni doesn't really let these gaps fall through. And if he's heavily involved and he's partially the showrunner, then I take back everything that I'm saying. I just don't know. But if so, then I'm surprised.
I don't know how heavily he's involved.
Yeah, there was a post on the subreddit. I gotta find it. There was a post from somebody who I think not only wrote this episode, but like is like maybe the showrunner or like one of the exec producers. I'll find it, but I think it's the guy whose last name is Harold. All right, I'm on the case, on the hunt for this post while
I got an article of Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi director details honoring franchises canon and using Dave Filoni as a reference. So to me, that does not sound like he is
as a reference,
as a resource. Excuse me, which is basically the same thing.
Okay, so doesn't seem like he's as close.
Maybe or something.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll do some digging.
I just want to
while you guys dig. Sorry.
I just want to blame someone.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I want to blame everyone. Well, let's just get this blame game going. We'll start while you guys do some research. I'll start going and we'll start kind of recapping where we are here. Obi-Wan wakes up, seemingly like on a table. He's in pain. He's on a ship that has escaped from Mapuzo, I believe was the name of the planet from the last episode. And he doesn't really know where he is. We see Tala just say like, Ben, you're okay. And then he gets in the back to tank. We're seeing flashbacks of them, Tala and the loader droid, kind of like carrying him off, seemingly on a gurney or something, like a stretcher. Seems like Darth Vader just let him go. There's like nobody from the Empire around anymore. It's just they're carrying Obi-Wan. It's daytime, even though it was nighttime before. It's daytime now. In this flashback, they're carrying him off. Maybe they hid him for a little while and were tending him somewhere else and they lost. I don't know, but it does seem like there's no Inquisitors around. There's no Empire around. They're all in the clear. They're just walking right outside in the open. I don't understand, especially because when we get to what happens later in the episode, I'm already confused.
Right.
You're confused. I'm fucking confused. I mean,
yeah.
It's a mess. And it I think even more than that, to me, the messiest part is to come, but like how he goes to a different planet. He goes to a different planet. This is what always kind of drives me the most nuts about Star Wars is the planet hopping. And not that I don't love a change of scenery, but it feels like everything gets so rushed and everything is like, all right, we got to go somewhere else. But like, doesn't the Empire control the ships? Don't they control travel in and out of a planet? How is Obi-Wan getting on a ship and going somewhere? And that this is to me like part one of like a million questions that we will never get answers to on this series and will never make a goddamn ounce of sense.
You're absolutely right. And the fact that they knew Obi-Wan was here on this planet, they sent out the probes, they sent the full force of the Empire there. Reva found Leia at the end of the tunnel where she was supposed to meet a pilot. why are they leaving? How are they not? You're right. Looking at every single ship, like unless they purposely let him go, and that's not explained. It's just not explained. So I don't understand. This is the first thing of this episode that I don't understand. I guess any thoughts, Matt? Any theories as to why maybe they let him go, or is this just kind of maybe a mistake in the writing?
There were a lot of theories last episode. I mean, this is very heavily tied to last episode where Vader was burning him, right?
Right.
There were a lot of theories as to why he let him go, or if, like, because Vader was able to ignite these flames and then immediately put them out when he force pushed him away, and then they just ignited the flames again, and he's like, "Oh, that's it." So that's why everyone's like, "I can't go there." That's why everyone's like, "All right, well, there must be a reason he wants to make him suffer." Which these are reasonings that I can get behind. Whatever, that's just a creative or narrative choice, or like something about the character where it's like, sure, he's been looking for him for 10 years, but maybe he like wants to make him suffer in this instance. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, which would totally be fine, right? Except for then in this episode, he's pissed that she lost him. Again, like there's Matt, that's a great pitch of like, yeah, maybe he wants to like make him be stronger and have a real fucking fight with him. And then he throws Reva across the room because she didn't do what he asked her to. Like, what's going on?
Right.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting to, but it just doesn't make the mental gymnastics from the last episode to make it okay doesn't make sense anymore.
No.
Absolutely. But we'll go all through it. We'll go in the jungle gym and everything else. I don't know. That's not gymnastics. We'll go on what are the high bars or whatever. I don't know what they're called. The balance beam. We'll do all of the gymnastics we can to try and figure all of this stuff out. But they end up bringing Obi-Wan to the back to tank, and he starts to have flashbacks of his battle with Vader from seemingly like 2 hours ago. And it's like interstitched with Vader also in his back to tank. Everybody's got a back to tank just ready and waiting for them. Boba Fett has one and is in Jabba's palace later down the line. And it's like, everybody's got a back to tank. It's like one person's got one. Now everybody's got one. They saw it. They really loved it. Gotta put it into everything. I really here was hoping that they would give us more Anakin flashback instead of a flashback of what we literally just saw in the episode before. Because if we're not getting more of Hayden Christensen out of the suit, and I apologize to anybody that's listening because I know we're really low on this so far, especially me. I'm ranting here more so than like analyzing. But if we're not getting more Hayden Christensen out of the suit, why do we have Hayden Christensen at all other than that one flashback that we got last week of him just standing in a Jedi robe, which is great, but like everybody was hyped up that he was coming back. Give him a chance to act his ass off as Anakin, Jedi Anakin. Give us a live action scene maybe of the Clone Wars that we never have had before. This is a perfect example of like, we could have seen Obi-Wan thinking back to a time where he and Anakin were really close and being really tormented over what happened to him. We're just instead seeing him as Vader from a couple of hours before.
I am curious from your perspective, Matt, like what do you think they need to show in the relationship between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader to make it more touching? Because my take is that it doesn't have the emotional weight. All the emotional weight comes from like the scene on Mustafar of him getting burned to a crisp, and then Anakin said, "Tag, you're it. I'm gonna burn you now." and here we are. I'm wondering what you think is like. Is it like a brother thing? Is it a mentor thing? What is the emotional stuff that we need to like actually make this satisfying?
So I was saying this to Katie earlier that they didn't spend any time on him reflecting. Like the flashback doesn't work for me from what we just saw. Sure, that's cool. But like he needs to reflect on what just happened. He thought that Anakin was dead for 10 years, right? And he should be reflecting on it. And this is a perfect time to like do some time of flashback or like, I don't know how they make them look younger because that's always hard, right? But the weight of them being like brothers and like family is not felt here at all because it's kind of like the acting in the scene where he figures out he's alive is amazing, really cool, great scene. I really loved it. It was, but other than that, there's basically nothing. There's like he's not showing. There's no scene where he's like, let me think about this. Instead, it's just like, let me go, gotta get Leia. It's like. I really, if they just did some type of callback or some type, even a conversation about Anakin, just anyone else to like just show the impact of each other in their lives a little bit, that would have helped. You know, that would have been a little bit. That would have been nice. I don't know. That's what I feel.
Yeah, I think something that we're lacking just across the board in the live action Star Wars, so the movies and just now this show, is the connection between Obi-Wan and Anakin. We got it really, really done well in Clone Wars, but a lot of people aren't sitting and watching the animated shows. They should. The stories are great, but it's a lot to consume, and there's a lot of storylines packed in there. But there's so much bonding and so much of a relationship, and you really get to see a different side of Anakin specifically. Obi-Wan is kind of the same, but you really get to see a different side of Anakin. You see the war hero. You see why he was so, highly thought of as this amazing Jedi. You see the relationship between him and Obi-Wan. Why not bring that to such a huge medium like this in some form or fashion? Because that's such a complaint from the prequels, right? It's like, you were my brother, Anakin. It's like, actually, you kind of hated each other. Like, it seemed like you both hated each other. You had one scene in episode 3 where you were nice, and then you walked away. You never saw each other again until Mustafar. Why not give us more of that so we can really see how this is torturing Obi-Wan? What happened? It just seems like such a missed opportunity, especially with them having Hayden Christensen in this role.
I have to say, I still liked the cut between the back to tanks of them. Like, I did
Yeah.
like the, cutting back and forth. I thought it was cool, but I could not agree with you more, Katie. If we have Hayden Christensen, if we are forcing this man to be dredged back into the
Yeah.
discourse of episodes 2 and 3, right? If we're making this man like go to freaking Star Wars Con and have a million people be like, "Can you like take a photo with me where we both say I hate sand?" Then we need to have him actually give a performance. I need to see some
Yes.
theater, some acting here.
Right?
Yeah,
Does he have any
we don't
lines
need a
yet?
guy in a suit. Yeah,
He's had
I
no
don't.
lines.
No, I don't think so.
He hasn't
I
had
don't
any
think so.
lines. They just have him walk around in a suit and like turn around in a field, which was kind
Yeah.
of cool. But like, I don't know.
I wish my boyfriend is here, because there was a great moment where Darth Vader was speaking, and obviously Darth Vader has the sort of Britishy James Earl Jones accent. And my boyfriend went, "Why does he speak British?" And I went, "Oh, it's like a Siri plugin." And he went, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "No, I'm joking. Hang on."
I literally
Okay.
just
Yes.
just had this conversation like literally 20 minutes ago, where I was like,
Oh, your mic cut out, Matt.
"It did."
Now you're here. Yeah, it's really funny. So just for some background, I didn't mention this at the top of the podcast, but Matt is my boyfriend, and Naomi and I talked after our first episode of saying like, oh, we should have a boyfriend pod. Her boyfriend's unavailable today, but since Isaiah didn't join, we decided to have Matt come on anyway. And it's just so funny that we literally right before we started recording, Matt was like, since when is everyone British, and why is Darth Vader now also like kind of British?
Yeah, it's like sometimes he delivers lines in like a Britishy way, and then sometimes he doesn't. I don't know. It just makes no sense. Like every Imperial is like in the prequels, everyone's like totally normal, and then all of a sudden the Empire's here, and like,
British
everyone is
people are
British.
normal.
I'm not sorry. Not that's you know what I mean.
I know what
like,
you
they're
mean. I know what you
They're
mean.
not. They don't have any accents. They're just like some aliens and a bunch of humans, and they don't have accents. And then all of a sudden, everyone's British.
Yeah, and I've said this before. Shouldn't Obi-Wan, if Obi-Wan is in that, is in the back of that truck from last episode and talking to a bunch of soldiers, and he has a British accent, is that not a tip-off of where he's maybe from, or where he was raised, or some kind of indication that either he's like, I don't want to say higher class because he's a Jedi, but I think that the Jedi are their own thing, or like, does it, like, why does a farmer from Tall have a British accent, right? What is going on here?
That's a really good point. I feel like people would combat that by saying maybe you're looking too deep into it. It's supposed to be Star Wars, the whole Harrison Ford thing. It's not that type of movie, kid. But like, I do the same thing. I'm like, that makes no, like, why am I trying to make sense of this nonsensical thing? I feel the same way.
So here is my other gripe. We're out of the back to tank. Obi-Wan claws his way out of the dunk tank, and he wants to get right back out there. And Tal was like, "Dude, you're fucking hurt." This was crazy to me that they kept having these moments in the rebel base where they kept going, no, this is a terrible idea. You're hurt. We have no manpower. She might get caught as like an Imperial traitor. All right, let's go. Like let's road trip out here. Why are there so this is one of my least favorite elements of screenwriting, is when the problem is presented as like a, you can't do this, you're hurt. Okay, your injury will not matter in the next scene. This is what drives me nuts. I don't know about you, Matt.
No, I definitely feel that scene was painful to me. That whole thing was very difficult, and like the acting was a bit rough too. It was kind of hard. It's like, no, I can't do this. All right, let's do it. I was like, wait, you just said you didn't want to do it. So it felt it felt really forced to me. I don't know. There's something about it that just makes me. I want to love this show. I really do. I really want to love the show and like keep going. But everything was so out of sorts. It just felt rushed. Everything feels rushed.
Let's talk about another rushed moment, because I think this is exactly what you're saying. The moment where the rebel leader, I can't remember what his name is, but he walks in and Obi-Wan Kenobi's like, I've lost so much. Obi-Wan's like, the Empire is a terrible thing. And the dude's like, yeah, I know, they killed my family. Obi-Wan is not stupid.
Right.
Like, he should not be so insensitive to the plight of the people he's trying to save to be like, actually, I know how bad the Empire is. And like, I don't know more. I don't know if you've seen that line. It's like, I know more about American Girl doll than you do, genius. But that's what it felt like. It's like, I know more about how evil the Empire is than you do.
Right. I mean, he's basically talking to people who are spending their time trying to save Force-sensitive people. And he's like, you don't know what the Empire is capable of. And it's like, well, that's a really weird choice. Who's people who are like, I don't know, living in the backwater, trying to help out like little children and stuff and families who are Force sensitive. That's a very strange choice, but I don't know.
It almost feels like Obi-Wan doesn't know what the Empire is capable of, because he lives in a cave and he just came out of a cave a couple of days ago to save Leia.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm glad that you guys, sorry, I apologize for anyone who may be watching. I had to pop out and pop back and my sound wasn't working. So you may have covered this already, but this guy, I'm not sure of his name, who plays this
don't
character.
worry, I didn't know his name.
Yeah, okay, great. I'm sure we're probably not going to see him again, maybe briefly, but that point is, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Naomi, because he's like, I know exactly, and he's so anti-helping Obi-Wan, and then all Obi-Wan says is, you have no idea what the Empire's capable of, and he goes, they killed my wife, and he's like, if you're counting on my help, you got it. And it's just nothing happened here. What is this dialogue? Why are we just automatically changing our mind in one beat? It's like we skip a breath, and then all of a sudden, you got it.
You son of a bitch, man. Yeah.
We can't. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
I also, in this scene, I just caught it we watched the second time, and I just caught it this time, that they say that Leia knows everything, right? Which I guess, how? What does she know, though?
I think they're assuming that she knows where they are and what planet they're going to. So maybe they're assuming they can like extract the information from her. But again, it's just an assumption. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I'm thinking they think. It seemed like that's what Reva is trying to get from her anyway.
Right. Just like where they were going.
Yeah.
That's what I didn't really pick up on. Why did she? Is that all she knows? But they said she knows everything. But she just met these people. So what exactly would she know about?
She would know at most like one planet. And like if there's something that's pretty obvious about the Star Wars is that like they can rebound from a planet blowing up. You know what I mean? The Rebel
Alliance happens all the time. It's like it's like second nature. Planets blow up all the time.
Boom, boom,
yeah.
boom.
I'll also say that like I was a smart kid and like, I was a well-read child and all that shit. I couldn't tell you what my dad did for work for like 18 years of my life. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like sometimes you just don't remember things as a kid and you're like, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm a child. This is not important to me. And Leia was just going to get on a ship. She just said, run down that tunnel. She didn't say like, run down the tunnel and catch the first boat to Dagobah or whatever. It was like, just get on the ship that's coming.
They should use Dagobah as a decoy planet just to get Yoda out of the way.
Yeah,
oh
stick
my
him
God.
on.
Yeah.
So, somebody posted a meme of like somebody like smoking a blunt and eating chips and saying Yoda chilling on Dagobah while Obi-Wan is being hunted for dear life.
Yeah, I saw something similar of just like Yoda chilling on Dagobah, but it's just like him sleeping. It's like from the animated show.
It is really funny.
It's very funny. And I was going to announce this at the end of the podcast, but I'll say it now. I did go ahead and make a subreddit. So it's r/fuck Yoda. If there's any other anti-Yodas out there, we now have a home. Go join the subreddit. Please share your thoughts. I'm open and I'm willing to hear them. I haven't posted anything yet, but maybe one day I'll post my dissertation of why I hate Yoda. So
I'm
feel
gonna
free.
join.
Go ahead and join if that's your thing, and
God,
you'll
what
find
is this
other
photo
like-minded
of
people.
Yoda?
Oh, it's the actual Yoda puppet that was used in episode 5, just like decrepit and disgusting now.
It looks like Yoda also got dragged through the lava. That's hilarious.
It's real gross.
All right, I'm in. I joined,
Yeah.
even though I can't say that I totally team fuck Yoda yet. I'm in.
We'll get you there. We'll get you there.
I didn't join.
Yeah, very supportive. So after we're done talking to this guy and he has a very quick change of heart, they're kind of going through the information that they have, and they have a hologram somehow of this base on Mustafar, which I guess makes sense because Tala was part of the Empire, so she does have some information. They call it Fortress Inquisitorius. I don't know if that's the official name or if that's just the name that Wade came up with. But Wade tells us that it's impenetrable. This is their base of operations. They somehow know that Vader is still on the ship and isn't in the base at this point. But Obi-Wan is like, well, there's no shields. And they're like, yeah, well, because no one's that dumb. And let me tell you, Obi-Wan's that dumb. And Obi-Wan's not the first one that's been that dumb. Because if you've played the game, Jedi Fallen Order, Cal Kestis does almost exactly the same thing. I'm going to spoil this game for you. So if you haven't played it, Naomi, I'm sorry if you want to mute. I don't know if you want to play the game.
Cal? How do you spell that?
C-A-L...
C-A-L and then K. Kestis. K-E-S-T-I-S.
Okay, I'm just gonna look at. I don't care about spoilers. This whole thing is like, who cares? But if you are a listener who does care,
I do.
Yes. Spoiler warning for any listeners out there. So in Jedi Fallen Order, which takes place in the canonical timeline prior to this show, Cal Kestis 5 years prior, thank you, goes to this base, swims in the same way that Obi-Wan does, gets in the exact same way, confronts an Inquisitor, and fights Darth Vader. And the water breaks through the walls and the windows in the exact same way. So that game is canon. This show is canon. So 5 years later, the same exact thing is happening at this base, and they haven't made any reinforcements, and there's no shields because no one is dumb enough. Yet Cal Kestis literally swam in the exact same way that Obi-Wan did.
Now, I don't remember him swim. I know that is true, but I don't remember him swimming in or how they got in. But what's going on?
I don't know.
Katie, you will remember that this is an empire that made 2 Death Stars that blew up the same way. So certainly there's an oversight somewhere.
You make a great
in
point.
Their governmental system of the architecture firm that creates the Death Star and creates these planets is really just not paying much attention. That's hilarious. Also, I've looked him up and he looks like Archie from Riverdale.
He does look like Archie from Riverdale. He's an actor. I don't remember his name, but I believe he's probably going to show up. The theory is in some kind of a live action show or movie because they cast an actor with his actual voice to play him in the game. So seems like signs point to maybe him showing up somewhere in the timeline on the show or something. But it just seems very interesting that they took almost an exact storyline and from this game that is also canon and put it in the show. So there's that. I know we're kind of jumping around a little bit, but that's okay. So Obi-Wan says, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, he's going to be played by Cameron Riley Monaghan, who is known for Ian Gallagher on Shameless.
Yep, he's on Shameless. Was a young little lad, but yeah, he did all the work, like the motion capture for the game and obviously the voicing of him. Also, the best droid in Star Wars exists in that game.
81.
Yep.
Yeah, great droid. Who also showed up in Mandalorian? No. Showed up in Book of Boba Fett in the Mandalorian episodes.
Basically the Mandalorian. 1.5 or 2.5, whatever.
2.5. Yeah. So essentially now Obi-Wan's like, well, I'm just going to go myself. And they're like, you can't do that. You're not healed. And he's like, don't worry. I'm going to be fine. And Tala goes, I'll just go with him. It'll be okay. So they go. They leave to go to Fortress Inquisitorius. On the ship on the way there, Obi-Wan is practicing the Force a little bit. He's moving around a little thing on the table. Tala kind of comes out and she just says, you'll be all right. And she says his body isn't the only thing that needs to heal. and the past is a hard thing to forget. And he just says some things can't be forgotten. So she says, you care about Leia, so you're just going to have to try. And this I thought was an interesting kind of turning point maybe for Obi-Wan, that I noticed this the second time watching the episode, that previously he's been very shaky in the Force. We see the Force used a lot throughout this episode, and I'm kind of wondering, like, does it feel like this is the turning point for him where she's like, you're right, I do care about Leia, so I am gonna have to try. And now he's turning the Force back on, almost full force.
I guess the question is, sorry if I'm going a little slow, why wouldn't he care about Leia? Like,
right.
Why wouldn't he care about this young woman? My
Right.
God, my computer's going slow. Excuse me, it's going to explode.
Uh-oh. I feel like he needs like they're trying to make it seem like he needs more of a catalyst. Just like they're showing you the scene where she falls off the building and he has to catch her in order to like build up his Force ability. I think he cares about her, but he's still in this like hermit mindset, right? Where, I mean, 10 years is a long time to like not utilize the Force, and he can still slash motherfuckers up with a lightsaber. That's cool, right? That doesn't go away. He can still and apparently it's really good at hand-to-hand combat. He's beating the shit out of everyone, which is crazy. But like, I guess it needs some more time to like lean back into the Force. So I'm fine with that, with him like trying to unlock that part of himself and taking a little bit longer. It like makes more sense to me. But no.
Yeah, definitely. So we get to the base. We cut to Riva. She comes in. She's talking to Leia. She's kind of in a interrogation room, and she says they found out about the path through some intelligence from another planet, and then they found another safe house similar to the one that they found, and within two systems. So she's trying to get information from Leia, saying, I think you know where they are. She's trying to get her to give her all the information. And then she breaks the news to Leia that Obi-Wan has burned to death. He's dead. No one's coming for her. And that the Jedi that Riva is looking for are the ones who left them there to die. And then kind of says, if you cooperate, you'll go home. We'll take you home safely. I actually really like this Riva storyline here. I know there's been a lot of, I think, unfair hate toward Riva. I think she's a really good character. To your point earlier, though, Naomi, I do hope we get a lot more backstory for her and that they don't rush it, because there were so many opportunities in this episode for her to give a little bit of even just a peek, just a little tiny peek of her backstory would have been really amazing. But I really like the acting in this episode from Moses Ingram, who plays Riva. I think she did a really good job in these interrogation scenes with Leia. What do you guys think?
The cops can lie to you, kids. The cops will
Yes.
and can lie to you.
Yes.
And so get a lawyer, Leia.
Yeah.
I turned to my boyfriend and I was like, you have to imagine that post being like interviewed and tortured by the Grand Inquisitors, Leia, whenever somebody was like, Leia, you're 19 years old and you're in the Imperial Senate, or Leia, you're leading the rebels, she was like, I was tortured by the Inquisitors. She must never stop bringing it up,
I wouldn't if I were her.
On the other hand, I do think that this is a good storyline, although there's one thing that makes no sense, which is she says, like, the other Jedi left him there to die. What other Jedi? What? Tala's not a Jedi. There was a robot that helped him, but she kind of, if I was Leia and if she's so plucky and so damn smart, what other Jedi? Isn't the whole point that there are no Jedi around, that everyone's hiding in the corner? And so, it was a good concept of a scene at the very least. I think it was my favorite part of the episode. I loved when she had her little Lola droid, and then Riva was like, I had a droid once and then it was taken from me and I've had nothing. There's a lot of fun to be had in those two characters interacting. I thought both actresses did a really good job. I thought the actress who played Leia, I can't remember her name right now, did a fabulous job this episode. Actually, she out of everybody actually felt like she was in Star Wars. Moses and Leia, they felt like they were participating.
I agree with you. And I think the actress who plays Tala as well did a really great job. I think the women carried this episode. And we're big Ewan McGregor fans. Naomi and I talk about him every week, how much we love him.
You in this episode.
Yeah, we got some shirtless. Hello.
Hello there.
He wasn't that great in this episode. The acting, I don't know if it was the
Yeah.
directing or something, but he seemed a little corny. I don't know, something about the way that he was acting. But I didn't love what they did with his character this episode. I really feel like the women carried this one.
I agree with that. I think the only part I didn't like with the acting with little Leia, I don't know the actor's name, was the screaming and the chair part was like a little bit too much for me. But other than that, I think she did a great job.
That's like the curse of her being like a 10-year-old, right? Is that like her voice is never going to sound dramatic when she screams.
Right, exactly.
It's always going to sound like she's like, I scream. You know, it's never going to really.
Yeah, I scream that. Yes.
Stop. You know.
I think what you said about Ewan sort of being flat is a great point, and I think that it again ties back into the idea that Obi-Wan is not getting either the moments to breathe and freak out and have a panic attack over Anakin being alive, except for when he's in a dunk tank. Or on the other side of the scale, he's not given any moments to change and actually show progress over time. Each episode should be Obi-Wan in a new emotional state, in a new disruption of what he believed was stasis. And like, we're not getting that. Instead, it's like, all right, we got to go chase Leia again. All right, there we go after her. And we have no progression throughout Obi-Wan's emotional journey.
I agree 1000%. Obi-Wan is doing nothing but reacting to the situations that he finds himself in. And there's never, to your point, a chance for him to just sit and take in all of this trauma that's going on around him. So it's frustrating because I feel like there's so much deeper we could go with Ewan and with Obi-Wan in general. I just, I feel like we're really missing out on a lot of potential here because of rushing through all these different storylines and like, oh, we're running on this planet to get Leia out of this meth lab, and now we're jumping and doing parkour on roofs, and now we're running through a tunnel on this other planet, and now we're in an Inquisitor base running, and it's just like, this isn't. Why are we running around all the time?
Right. I mean, they have unlimited resources. Why does it feel rushed? I mean, like, I feel like it's the embodiment of this is like the from the first episode where he's meeting the other Jedi who's a director, I think, and they meet in Tatooine and the camera's like this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's what this show feels like to me. It feels like that because it's just like you have literally unlimited resources, right? And unlimited time. You're not on a time schedule, you know, like nothing's come out in a while. I mean, some stuff has come out obviously, but like you can take your time with this, you know, and just make a narrative that makes sense. But I feel like they're not doing that. They're just rushing it. Like I was telling this to Katie before. Leia is, I love when they introduced Leia. I thought it was really cool. I thought they picked the perfect actor. I think she's great. And some people don't agree apparently, but no one's ever going to agree on everything.
I don't think anyone
can't please the Star Wars fan, you know?
That's true.
I also think that child actors in particular, I think always get like, unless they're spectacular, always get like a hard reaction because they're kids. Like,
it's really rough with Star Wars child actors, you know, with Jake Lloyd.
Yeah. But
he was great in Turbo Man, which is not called Turbo Man. It's called Jingle All the Way. But still, he was great in that. So I don't care. And I loved episode 1. So whatever. I feel bad for him.
Biggest episode 1 fan on the podcast right here.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, I thought that they should have. I love that they introduced her, but they should have done like 1 or 2 episodes with her and then return her to Alderaan. So not to complicate the narrative and not like to they're basically like introducing some like holes to the story that people can poke through because she's like too ingrained now. Like she's being held captive by these people. She's like a princess of Alderaan. You know, her dad's a senator. You know, and like it kind of like pokes holes in the whole thing. Like, oh, Obi-Wan, you're the only one who can help Leia, right? For some reason, and now that, like, you know, your dad's a senator, why can't their senator just be like, hey, can you give my daughter back?
Right. I also think that it betrays what I think is a fundamental part of the first movie of episode 4, which is that, and you know, we see it established in episode 3 as well, is that it's this idea that the government is like fake, that the government actually does nothing. She's a member of the Imperial Senate, but like that isn't getting anything done. She has to like literally be a spy as well. And if there is no like fake diplomacy or fake like, oh, we found your daughter running around the stretches and here you go. And Jimmy Smith can't do anything because he's like, well, they're gonna kill me if I question the Empire. Like,
Yeah.
there's so much more interest to be made in this bullshit government that is the Empire. And instead they're just sort of being like, they're like kind of like Nazis. And it's like, yeah, we get it, man. That like we said that in 1970 something. Like, can we please add a little bit more depth and like interest to what's going on? And that's where, like, again, you're sitting here and you're like, okay, Riva is being badass and Riva is interrogating a child. She's so desperate to find the Jedi, and yet it's like, oh, we'll talk about her later. Don't worry about that. You're like, it's you got two.
Yeah.
The presentation's almost over. Let's go.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. And my concern for Riva in general is that we're going to wrap up her storyline in like the last 10 minutes of the last episode. And we're going to get like a 10, maybe not even 10, like a 6-minute, just like, oh, remember when I found you as a youngling and then I did, and it's going to be like a rushed thing. And you're going to be like, oh, that's why she did it. But you're not going to get to hear from her perspective. It's going to be from someone else. It's just going to be, I just don't have faith that they're going to do it in a way that gives the credit to the character that she deserves, especially as a main character of the show. I mean, she's in every episode very heavily. She's clearly the main villain. I don't know why they're kind of depriving us of that. But anyway, we get Tala and the ship landing on the base, and she's walking through. She's dressed in her Empire garb. And I think this is actually a pretty interesting scene because you can tell, and I think it's a credit to her acting. You can tell that she's concerned because she doesn't know if her cover is still blown or not. She doesn't know if anybody saw her on the planet. And she's going very bravely to this base where all the Inquisitors are. And she's walking in confidently as if she belongs there. And she reaches kind of like the scanner gate thing. And one of the officers is like, I need to see your ID and your credentials. I need to check your clearance. And you can tell she's kind of like panicking in this moment. And she really like just goes for it with this guy after a little while and just says, I'm your commanding officer. I have rank on you. And she just flexes and it works. But that to me felt like it was really a shot in the dark. But she tells him that she's here with classified intelligence and, you'll refer to me as such. I outrank you essentially. What did you guys think of this scene? I think that the Tala stuff, I think she did a great job, even with the clumsy writing of it all.
Yeah, I think she's great. I think she says refer to me as sir, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
Yeah, she like pretty much carried that scene, made it believable. I think she was great in Game of Thrones, so I really liked her there.
Yeah.
But I love her character here, and I thought that was. There's some instances further along the episode that I'm like, not her acting, but like the instances that don't make sense. But her acting's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this scene had a lot going for it, right? Like there was the tension of, is she caught, which I think is great because literally Obi-Wan Kenobi was at this checkpoint and she's the only one who walked away alive, and nobody thought to investigate this situation.
Right.
Everyone just said, oh, well, whatever, she's probably just out there.
Yeah, it's fine. They'll find him.
My big gripe is that I think this character has overstayed her welcome. That's not her fault.
Okay.
But I think the story would be better if Tala died this episode. I think that if Tala was caught being the traitor that she was, we see her confront with Riva. If she died to get them onto the ship, very Rogue One of it all, it would feel meaningful. It would feel like, Leia just became, because I saw some arguments online that Wade was supposed to reflect the sadness of losing a person during the war. But I think that if you want to make it very realistic for Leia and for Obi-Wan, it has to be this kind of character who's been assisting them the whole way and then uses her abilities to, because there's that great line that Reva says, like, then you'll die for nothing, which isn't true.
Right.
And I'm just getting into like the end of the episode.
Yeah.
But I really think that if Tala had died, it would have been like, no, she didn't die for nothing. She died because she was taking a risk and helping society and all that good stuff. So I kind of wish Tala died this episode, but she didn't.
I said it like 3 times. Oh, sorry. Keep going. My mic screwed up.
Yeah, I think I have a lot to say about the end of the episode. I'm going to save my thoughts for when we get to that point, but I I'm gonna put what you said in my pocket, and I'm gonna come back to it because I have a lot
Yes.
of thoughts about kind of the weight of it all and that scene. Matt, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say that I thought that she was gonna. I said she's gonna die like 8 times throughout
Yeah,
the episode, like, and it just didn't happen. It's like, all right,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. She gets in though through this checkpoint after she kind of flexes her muscles a little bit, and she goes on and she just like sits down in like an open floor plan office in the Empire base, and she's just like talking out loud on her little microphone, on her speakerphone, Amy, as you mentioned that you have out today, and she's like, "Hey Ben, I'm here. I'm here to guide you through this base and tell you everything that you need to know." Right in the wide open when there's multiple people in this room.
She's at a fucking WeWork and she's just got Obi-Wan
Literally,
Kenobi talking on the phone. I don't understand.
literally in a shared workspace. What are we doing here? What are we doing?
There's people all around her.
She's like surrounded by people. There's so many people in this room. It's crazy.
Literally makes eye contact with one of them. Like it's
Yeah,
not
one
even
guy
like
looks
his
over and is like,
show.
can you keep your conference call down over there? Maybe put some headphones in?
Yeah.
Thanks.
And also, I love how uptight the Empire is about using your station. Like, I'm so sorry. We are trying to take over the galaxy. You cannot sit at your not
Yeah.
assigned computer.
Yeah, this is
You
not
do
your
need to
desk,
move
ma'am.
desks.
Yeah, it's wild. So she's talking to Ben, and he's swimming through with his little Jedi mouthpiece, which is very similar, like we said a little bit earlier, to what took place in Fallen Order. And he comes in through this little very insecure hole, I guess, in the ground drain. I don't really know. And you know, typical Star Wars, he sabotages a stormtrooper. I thought he was going to put the outfit on. He didn't. Maybe he should have. Maybe in this instance, we should have done the trope of someone putting on the stormtrooper's uniform. But for some reason, Obi-Wan was like, I don't need this. I'm just going to wear, once again, my Jedi robes. No one's looking for me. It's not like anyone here knows who I am, so it's
Right.
fine. Oh no, wait, everyone knows who you are, and your former apprentice who tried to kill you just yesterday is actually on his way here, but it's fine. I guess just wear your Jedi robe.
I've seen this talked about online that, and this makes sense to me, that like in episode 4 they made Obi-Wan's robes to look like he was a local, right? So like it wasn't like the idea that it was supposed to be Jedi attire, right? It was just supposed to be like he's trying to blend in with the locals. He looks like a local dude and just like a hermit, right? And he can go into town and be normal. And it wasn't until like the prequels really that they took that in to be like, this is what a Jedi looks like, and this is a traditional Jedi garb, right? So with that in mind, sure. I mean, change your outfit.
Yeah, I mean the locals on this base are stormtroopers, so he doesn't fit in there either. It's just it's a little
How
silly.
how much better would it have been if like his robes were sticking out of like a stormtrooper vest or something? Like, or if there was some
Or
comedy.
they found the robe later on and they were looking for him and they found a pile of robes and they're like, oh, he's here, but they don't know which stormtrooper he is. Like, that can be interesting.
Yeah, not to mention that the disguise of the Imperial officer does not work because I don't see, I think in my entire time of watching Star Wars, a single Imperial officer with a beard
Yeah.
and
Not
a
one.
haircut that's not like the most slick back yuppie American Psycho haircut possible. Like
It's true.
he has a ginger beard. Like, if anything,
Yeah.
you're looking for already a pretty notorious Jedi. And then he's just got a little goofy hat on. I mean, I was beside myself at this point.
I have about 45 minutes of rant in me when we get there. Because there's a lot to say.
Yeah. But I just want to
Yeah.
I want to circle back to the phone for a second because I don't know if like they have nomophobia, which is like the fear of not having your phone on you, but like why on earth are you using this object? Why on earth are you using something with a speakerphone and openly communicating? Why couldn't they have communicated in a code, right? Been like, I am walking towards the bit, what? It just is like this. It's reached the point where I don't want the heroes to win because they're so dumb and so bad at what is happening to them. They're not smarter than the Grand Inquisitor. They're smarter than Darth Vader. They're just like so fucking lucky, and that isn't a good protagonist.
Totally, completely agree with you. And I find, especially just having watched the Clone Wars in the past and having really kept up with Obi-Wan's story thus far, he usually isn't this clumsy. I mean, I guess there are times in maybe episode 3 where it got a little silly with Grievous and stuff, but like I, that is that's aside. I think just Obi-Wan in general, I don't know. I guess maybe he's out of practice for a little while, but it just seems this all seems a little out of character for me. It seems very careless for someone who's been hiding out on Tatooine for 10 years and goes back into hiding for however many years after this, like 9 more years or something like that, without getting caught. It just seems like if this is how you're leaving the planet that you're hiding from and you're just being so out there and really careless with the way that you're rescuing Leia, and then you just go back into your cave or your home at this point because he has a home in A New Hope. He invests in some real estate. I don't understand how he doesn't get caught at some point.
Right. Why in Star Wars can they have the technology to breathe underwater, but not create earbuds?
It just doesn't
Sorry,
make any sense.
Just bring it back to that for a second.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't.
It's just there for a plot point, which I don't like. And you know, in episode 4, they have the same communicator, right? I get it, like 3PO, the guy, you know, but
like at the same time, like what, you know, our phones have speakerphone mode and our phones have headphone mode. Like what we're I get this idea of like sticking to what we have established in old episodes, but like I'm not thrilled about a communicator. I'm angry about the fact that like she's literally like, because at first I was like, okay, maybe she has an earpiece and that I'm not seeing, and that's why she's not being overheard at her desk. And then he gets overheard. First of all, it's on speakerphone on the desk, and I was like, I'm furious. And then he gets overheard in the hallway with the stormtroopers, and I was like, this is deranged.
they both.
And I just like receiving it just
between the two of them. Between the two of them, it's just, it's maddening. And to me, maybe I'm making it a little more deep than it has to be, but to me, it just like takes away from the original movies as a whole, because like you see this Obi-Wan in episode 4, who's wise and like, it's a crazy story that he's been on this, not a crazy story, but like it's, you know, it's an incredible story. And then he goes and he sees Darth Vader. It's like, no, actually, like you've had all of this, like these crazy hijinks. Listen, here's what it is. I don't like hijinks. Okay. And this episode is completely full of hijinks, and I don't like silly hijinks as filler. And that's what this episode was to me. And I think I just cracked the code of why I hate it so much, because I hate hijinks. And this is just a full hijinks episode based on characters that are too smart to act like this. They're too smart. In all of the canonical stories, Tala aside, we don't know her. She's the smartest one of the episode, though. And like, this is really what we're doing. It just feels like they're insulting our intelligence with these hijinks here.
I think Star Wars is kind of full of hijinks, though. I'm not gonna, you know, like I feel like episode 4 is like all about hijinks. It's all about like dumb, campy hijinks, mostly for kids. I think the problem here is like they're setting in a very serious tone, right?
Yes.
And they're also trying to introduce these hijinks, but do not fit within the tone that they're creating. So that's I definitely agree with you, but like in that context, you know, it's something off with it.
And in my opinion, like again, it's not going anywhere. We're not seeing anything new when we're on like the 4th Imperial base. We, you know, there is something interesting. You know, people love to call like the mole man a little narc, and he is, but that's interesting. There are people who are like, the Empire's doing good, and Tala had those interesting like statements last time where she thought she was joining the Empire for a good reason, and turns out bad. And those are all interesting elements that are sprinkled throughout and like never touched upon again. And I would rather have like a million sappy monologues or like characters like saying like really sort of, you know, I'd have a million scenes of like Obi-Wan being like, you look so much like your mom, than like another like goose chase through an Imperial base that we've seen time and time again. It's not it's so goofy. Also, they really didn't have like laser proof glass in this Empire base. They have they have the technology to make laser bullets, and then they don't have the technology to make laser proof glass.
I can't with this because I just we'll get there. We'll get there. I feel like there's a few things that happened before that I did like, but this all kind of like took me out of it. we'll kind of go a little more quickly because a lot of this episode is just like the same thing happening kind of over and over again until we get to the point that Obi-Wan needs to get to. But Tala and Obi-Wan are communicating with each other through these devices pretty much throughout the episode, fully on speaker. They get heard a few times. Some stormtroopers hear Obi-Wan get an incoming call from Tala on speakerphone, and we do see him use the Force, which I liked this. I liked that he kind of like leaned on the Force here to save himself, which I was like, oh, okay, so he's kind of like leaning into this now, where before we saw him have it turned off. We saw when he met with Vader in the episode before that he was very rusty with his lightsaber. So I liked that this was old school Obi-Wan to me, where he was creatively thinking on his feet and it was just like boom and moved his fingers and distracted them with the Force. That I really liked. We get him into this room, which is like I don't know if I don't remember if they were calling it a fortress or what they were calling it, but they thought it was, I guess, like a prison or something. And they're like, oh, it's not a prison, it's a tomb. And we see just walls of Jedi encased in what looks like amber. That I guess it's amber,
like Jurassic Park sap.
Yeah,
and they're basically like taxidermy Jedi who have died, and are encased in this like trophy room of dead Jedi, which I thought was really interesting. There are a couple of things I didn't like about it. The first Jedi that we saw, the name is escaping me, but he was in Clone Wars. He had an episode with Ahsoka where he helped her find her lightsaber. So that was a cool Easter egg.
Everyone was really sad about that on Reddit. They were like,
yeah.
Everyone was really upset because they were like, well, he's just dead now. Like, that character is dead. And I think Star Wars likes to do this thing where they go like, wow, tragic. This person died. And you're like,
yeah.
I didn't see it happen, and therefore it means nothing to me. Like, at least when Order 66 happens, you see all those Jedi getting shot in the back and all that. You're like, oh, wow, this is like a fucking bummer. But this is just like, yeah, he's frozen. All right, moving on. Look at this kid. He's also frozen.
It's like,
stupid little
that guy. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Obi-Wan stops. He's looking at all of their faces. The one thing I don't like is I felt like the Jedi were a little too human. It's like almost every single one was a human except for the first guy from Clone Wars, which we've seen in older. And I think in this series in general, we're seeing a lot of humans aside from Zach Braff in the last episode. It feels like everybody else is a human for the most part. And I'm kind of like, what happened to all of the like aliens in Star Wars? I don't know. But
I swear to God, if there's not a fucking frog Jedi, I'm gonna lose my goddamn mind.
Yeah, I mean, we got the cool bounty hunters. We got the raptor bounty hunter, which we all really liked. We got a few on the first episode or the second episode. But like since then I feel like we haven't seen, but I was kind of surprised to see like every Jedi in that tomb be a human except for the one. Because you see in the prequels, not many of them were human. It's really the ones that we knew of well, and the rest were just different races. But I liked that Obi-Wan kind of like stopped and stood and looked at the youngling for a little while. It seemed like that hit him really hard. It seemed like maybe the tragedy of what was going on that really struck him in that moment. But what did you guys think about this tomb? Do you think it has any deeper meaning? Will we get more from this, or is it just there as kind of like a cool thing or like a creepy thing? Cool thing is not the best way to put it. But like a creepy thing of like, oh wow, the Empire's really screwed up. Like this is really dark and gross of them.
I think I would like it to have a deeper meaning. I feel like with the nature of this show and the direction that it's going in, we're never going to hear about it again. You know, it doesn't. I don't know. Yeah. What's the point of having an underwater base with like I think he said it's not a fortress, it's a tomb or something like that. Yeah. A fortress or base, but fortress, like, right? So it almost implies that the entire purpose of this base is to like store these dead Jedi, and I don't know if they're building towards like a whole bigger plot with like Baby Yoda and some cloning and like, you know, and they're trying to get him and like storing these Jedi bodies and potentially using whatever stuff that they have to do something with it. And like, you know, with the sequels of that Palpatine bullshit that who cares about, you know, but
the dead speak.
Yeah, right. It's like Fortnite, thank God.
The dead speak. Yeah.
But it feels like maybe they're going towards that a little bit. But at the same time, I feel like it was just to be like
shock value.
Yeah, this is a cool thing. They have some Jedi and sap, which Why would you need that? I would like them to be building towards something, but I also kind of hate the clone angle. So I'm almost like 50-50, you know?
Yeah, in my opinion, I think that this is wouldn't it be cool if the implication was that there was genetic experiments on this weird little ocean liner,
Mm.
right?
Right.
Like, what if they are trying to harness the power of the Force to do evil or something like that, right? Because they, all the Sith would technically all the Sith at one point be Jedi, right? Or am I? Is it like rectangle, square, but a square is not a rectangle? Or I said that wrong, but like,
I don't think that every Sith has previously been a Jedi. Like Darth Maul was never a Jedi. He was a Sith for a little while, then he was no longer a Sith, and he's just a dark side
Right.
user. And he's always just hated the Jedi. He's never been one.
Right. You could be force sensitive and just,
And I don't,
And
yeah, and I
to
don't
be a
think
bad guy.
Palpatine was ever a Jedi.
Palpatine?
So-
Shiv? No.
Sheev?
No.
Shiv?
Shiv? No, he was never a Jedi.
Shiv is Succession.
Oh, is
But what about that?
They're
What about
actually the same
Shiv Roy as Emperor Palpatine? It's like, I think
That-
we should just do it.
That would be great.
Um,
I would watch that.
Yeah, I would too. She should be pretty good. And that's like the thing is what if it was, if we're fucking around with the dark side of the Force, like, why not harness the whatever? This is all to say, wouldn't it have been more interesting if this was like, oh my god, they're trying to make clones, like you said, or oh my god, they're trying to strip the Force from their dead corpses or something fucked up and weird. That would be cool. Instead, Obi-Wan just like walked into the wrong closet. Like he just kind of was like, oh, didn't mean to come here. Oh, this is sad. It makes no sense why, like, at least, remember the Mandalorian had all those people in carbonite? Like, that was fun. That was interesting. What if they were in carbonite or something? Then it's like, wait, they're still alive? Then you can get into the implications of like, okay, is that why Emperor Palpatine's still alive? Whoa, like all this stuff.
Right.
And also my big gripe here is that like the way that Obi-Wan finds Leia, it's just that he can hear her screaming, right?
Yeah, and this was even a little open to interpretation for me. Before we move on to that, I do want to say I think it would have been more impactful in that room if we saw some Jedi from Order 66, like if we saw a Plo Koon or someone that, maybe they picked up the bodies after they died and brought them to this base and put them I think that someone that Obi-Wan knew or someone that was on the council with Obi-Wan,
imagine
maybe
seeing
that would have been
Windu.
Yeah, maybe
That
this
would be
is the confirmation we need that Mace Windu is actually dead. Put him in some sap. I mean, just somebody that we knew well, who didn't make it out of Order 66, who we know knew Obi-Wan, who we can make this emotional, we can see him have this emotional reaction to. He has instead an emotional reaction to this youngling, which makes sense because that's terrible that they're killing younglings, but at the same time, it's like, of course they're killing younglings. They kidnapped a 10-year-old. I mean, they're putting her in torture chamber, of course. But yes, Naomi, to your point, it sounds like maybe this torture chamber was like in the next room through the next door because Leia's just screaming and saying, help me. And then Obi-Wan, I guess, like hears her. I don't know if it's he hears her or feels her through the Force or something, but he finds her. Prior to that, though, I do want to very quickly mention that Reva, while talking to, and this is something that you already touched on a little bit, Naomi, but while talking to Leia and trying to get information from her, she takes Lola out of the bag and she's kind of like playing with her. And she does say the thing like, I had a droid too. And I, before I lost everything, they took everything from me. And she's holding her. And we kind of just see her like holding her. We don't really see too much happen there. But then she kind of gets Leia to say, yes, I'll tell you, but you have to call my dad first. And she's like, we're on the same side, right? And
that was really funny.
Yeah, I thought that was a really great moment of Leia just really thinking on her feet and being very, very sassy and smart. Reva didn't like it though. And she's like, well, we're going to make your tears real. And she brings her into this torture room. So that's kind of how she gets there. I guess though, she just puts Lola back in the bag.
I guess so.
And I guess Leia gets her bag back before she leaves.
I think she had it in her pocket. It came out.
Oh, it was her pocket.
Yeah,
okay, yeah, maybe that makes more sense. That makes more sense.
But what's the implication of the torture, though? Right? Because like
I don't know.
Those are some very pointy objects headed.
Yeah, are they gonna like drill into her brain?
Yeah.
Oh,
So what's
maybe.
so I don't think Leia was going to bounce back from that. So why would you have the foresight to put a tracker on a child you're feasibly going to render a vegetable? And then what are you going to like? She's like, you're going to ship her back to like Alderaan? Like, what's going on here?
Right. Yeah, that is a little confusing. I don't know. I mean, those machines look like we've seen them before, but I don't know if we've ever seen them like do what they're supposed to do. It's also a very extravagant room for just one torture device.
I've never
Visually
seen it go
beautiful
to the
though.
face. I've never seen it go to the
Mm.
eyes. I've seen like that device go into like the body.
Yeah.
It's almost like a shocking thing, or like a heat, like Leia in an episode. They're doing it to Leia.
Yeah,
Or
and they kind of did it to
Han.
Ray, right?
They're doing a Han in episode 5. Remember he like gets like. Remember when he's like he like holds his eye, he can't see. He's like I can't see. Or is that no? That's when he came out of carbonite. I'm getting confused.
Yeah,
now.
that was episode 6 after he came out of the carbonite.
But they did torture him at one point, or someone within a contraption very similar.
I think they put. I think Kylo Ren put Ray in one of those in the sequels, but I
see
don't
that
think
real.
that's probably not what you're
The
referring to.
scan grid was a piece of mining equipment that analyzed metals by emitting electrical charges to gather data. In Cloud City, Darth Vader used a scan grid's electrical charge to analyze and gather data of a different nature by torturing Han Solo. Cost 10,000
There you go.
credits. Love that Wikipedia's got a price tag. You know
That's
what I
cool.
What's
mean?
that?
That's
10,000
pretty
credits
handy.
is a steal.
That's kind of affordable. I do want to say real quick.
Yeah.
I think the second time I heard that the Obi-Wan and Leia scene where you heard her screaming, they added like a reverberation effect to the vocal. So it didn't sound like it was necessarily sound like it was coming from the next room.
Oh,
For me,
like
it sounded
he
like
heard
he was
it
kind of
in
like
the
feeling
Force.
it out. That's what
Okay.
that's what it sounded like to me. But I don't know.
I
if
would
that's-
prefer that,
It's basically
personally.
just a guess.
Yeah. And it's such a
Yeah.
shame that that's like, we don't know for sure. We should know for sure that he is accessing the Force to save her.
Absolutely. I completely agree. So
Can
he
I-
calls Tala. Yeah.
I have to interrupt. Oh, sorry. To
Please.
go back to the Reva integration. We've seen like Kylo Ren, we've seen someone as force strong as Rey still be tortured by Kylo Ren and like have, her brain blasted in whatever way. Why couldn't Reva do this to a child? Like, why? How did this?
It's a
not
great
happen?
question.
Metachlorians. That's it. Next question.
It's a great
No, I remember
question.
that. Got it.
No, I mean it's a really good point. She doesn't get anything from Leia. She seems very frustrated, and she's like, "You're very strong. I'm strong." And I'm like, the stronger you are, the scarier you get. It's like, what? Leia doesn't know that she's force sensitive. We know Leia's force sensitive 100 years from now, but like adult Leia, I feel like finds out she's General Leia, not even Princess Leia, finds out she's force sensitive. Do we see in the original series Leia using the force at all? Not really, right? She just
No.
says like, "Oh, I kind of felt like I had a brother or something," in episode 6 when she finds out Luke is her brother after they made out. It's like I don't
yes.
know what.
Nothing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just it's weird. It's weird. And then when you think that that would then make Reva say like, "Oh, she's probably force sensitive if this isn't working."
To
on
play the
her.
devil's advocate in this, there are some instances where like the Jedi mind trick won't work on specific races of people, or like people who have mental fortitude to like get away right, or who are just strong enough mentally to this. It just does not work on them, right? So in this instance, I think the same thing for Leia, that she's just strong enough. She doesn't necessarily have to be force sensitive, right? But she's just mentally
She's
strong
a,
enough.
a well-loved child. She had such a nice upbringing that she can't be fucked with
Yeah.
by the Force.
Yeah,
Right,
she
she's the
has
best.
such a great head on her shoulders at 10 years old that she can't be infiltrated
Yeah.
by the Force. So Obi-Wan calls Tala on her little speakerphone and is like, make a distraction. So she goes in. She basically is like, a woman comes in as Reva's about to dig into Leia's brain, I guess, with this torture device. Perfect timing for this distraction. And she's like, I was told that this can't wait. So Reva comes in and starts talking Tala comes in and starts talking to Reva and saying, I have classified information for you. I know about the path. I have been a spy, essentially. And while this is happening, Obi-Wan, somehow the lights go off in the torture chamber. And I thought this was visually beautiful. This is one of the high points of the episode for me, is when we see Obi-Wan's beautiful glowing blue lightsaber. The lightsabers in the series look incredible. And he takes down a stormtrooper that's kind of like glowing because he's white and the room is dark and there's like some red accents happening. And then the other stormtrooper gets like freaked out. He's like, I'm gonna get you, like, because he couldn't see where he was. And then Obi-Wan took him out, and I just thought that was I thought that scene was beautiful. And then he saves Leia while Riva's kind of taking one for. I'm sorry, Tala is taking one for the team here with Riva and kind of showing herself and saying, I was on the planet and I know where Obi-Wan is.
The one thing I'll say about this series is that the lightsabers look real cool. And
Incredible.
Like they did a really good job with them. I think before they just had like a plastic sphere that didn't light up that was just added in post, but now they actually have like a blue saber, they actually light it up, and it works really well for like the actual reflections of light on their face and like makes scenes that much more believable. So I think it looks really cool. And like where you hit the second stormtrooper and it like collapsed really fast, I thought that was really cool. I don't know why,
Yeah.
just like that little scene was really nice.
I love the lightsaber work here.
Somehow Obi-Wan Kenobi like baseball bat hit a laser bolt. I don't know if you caught that, where he just went like boop and like hit it out of the park. That was very funny to me. I was like, what are the laws of the laser bolts here? Because I understand the deflection of it, but I like that he was like, you know what? I'm gonna go for a homer with this one and like hit it out of the park. I loved it.
Yeah, this was great. So this led to like kind of a little bit of an escape scene for Obi-Wan and Leia. She basically is like, they told me you were dead. To me, it seems like she doesn't really like care that much that Obi-Wan's here. Like she thinks that he burned alive, and now she's like, oh, hi, they said you were dead. I didn't tell them anything. And he's like, I know. Come on, let's go. And I'm just like, oh, there's no emotional moment here at all. Not one.
No.
Like, oh, you're actually not totally dead, and someone is coming to get me. Great. But while they're escaping, Tala and Riva are having like a little bit of a standoff here of Riva being like, you're lying, but are you lying for me or against me? And Tala tells her, I know exactly where they are. I was a spy on this planet for a while. I saw them come in, but he panicked and we weren't able to do anything. And he went to this other planet, which is not the planet that they're actually on. She gave them decoy planet. Riva's not believing this. She's like, take her to the interrogation room. And then lights start going off and alarms start happening because a spotter droid, or whatever they're called, sees Obi-Wan and Leia in the hallway. And then all hell breaks loose. All hell breaks loose on this base here. So Obi-Wan and Leia are going through the hallway. He's like, Leia, hide. And she just like runs up against a wall because there's nowhere for her to hide. She just like flattens up against the wall. But we get a lot of really great Obi-Wan force work here and a lot of really great lightsaber work, which in contrast to the last episode, and as much as I'm making a joke about it, this was my favorite part of the episode for sure, is the Obi-Wan rescuing Leia with the lightsaber and then the force in the hallway, because we get to see that he's much more in tune with the force than he was in the last few episodes. He's, Naomi, to your point, hitting homers with these laser beams. He's deflecting. He's taking out, like, these stormtroopers are just like piling up. He's like hitting them. They're piling up on top of each other. He's taking out droids. He's deflecting stuff while also stabbing stuff. I'm just like, yeah, this is the Obi-Wan that we want to see. He's kind of a badass. He's reaching that peak Obi-Wan status again. Maybe he's not there all the way, but he looks awesome doing it because he's glowing blue. I mean, he just looks great. And just the darkness on this base itself and the light colors of the bright white of the stormtroopers and then the blue of the laser. I just think visually this all looks great.
Yep.
Story-wise, we have a little to desire, but visually everything looks great.
Yeah, I really like the look of the show for sure. The white stormtrooper like look, it's like so pristine, and we should talk about how cool the base is. Very cool. I mean, we're making fun of it a bit, but the base is a very cool conceptualization. Like the tip of it coming out of the water and the rest of it being underneath the water, regardless of how they're engineering the structural integrity. You think with a bunch of people with guns, like every single person with anyway, we'll get to it.
Yeah, when you think a stray laser bolt, right? With these stormtroopers that we know are not good at aiming historically.
Right.
So like maybe get some double pane glass instead of just one single pane under the pressure of this ocean that you're under, but whatever.
I was gonna say that my favorite shot of the episode was when there's like Obi-Wan and Tala, and then like everyone's just drowned in the hallway behind them. That was a great shot. That was like cool. It's new. I've never seen somebody die that way before in Star Wars, and like, you know, the visuals of like the ugly murky green
Yeah.
of water that they're in, I thought was really wonderful, and it broke from the typical color scape of blue, red, white, black, and
Yeah.
I also appreciated in that scene where the glass is cracking and Obi-Wan's like, go. That
Yeah.
is perfect Star Wars of like, I'm sacrificing myself in order to save you. Get the fuck out of here. They had absolutely no sense of urgency. No sense of urgency getting through this
Nothing, yeah.
hallway. Again,
No.
can anybody pick up the pace a little bit? I know Leia is young, but like, kids can run. They are little demons. Like, they can get out of there. Nobody was booking it. But at the very least, I thought that it was nice that Obi-Wan was doing something very selfless. It is a great representation of like the Jedi mindset, and Obi-Wan is actually finally tapping into it a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, to your point, when during this whole kerfuffle here that we have, Tala takes the
Kerfuffle.
opportunity with you know, the alarms and stuff. And I thought this scene was actually really cool, where she took the blasters and she killed the 2 stormtrooper that were in there, Riva and
She
the other.
slapped one in the head.
Yeah, bonk.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, well, never mind then. So she gets out, scratch what I just said. She gets out, she just runs into the hallway that Obi-Wan. She's like, "Oh, Ben." And during this during all of this craziness, a laser from the blaster hits the window, and to Naomi, to your point, it starts cracking, and Leia is the one that notices it, and she tells Obi-Wan, she's like, "Ben, no, no." So he holds it with the Force, and this I love so much because, like we've been saying the whole time, and like they've alluded to in the show, is that he really hasn't been in tune with the Force, and he holds just this cracking glass with the pressure of all of this water, holds it there, and Tala is there, and he's like, "Get her out of here, like, I'll catch up with you, whatever." He also shot or deflected one of the lasers from the blaster to get the door closed. So he's like holding this thing, and then the Empire's opening the door, and he's like, he's doing a lot. He's really multitasking here. So they run, and he lets the door open, and then stops holding the door, and the water starts rushing through, and he runs. This wasn't like the best CGI to me. It didn't look great. I kind of was like, this feels unbelievable that he's like not really running that fast, but the water hasn't caught up to him yet, and then the door just closes and it's like trickling through. But you're right, Naomi. I thought their drowning scene was awesome. I thought it was very cool and like creepy, just to see these bodies floating behind them. And then to your point, like we haven't really seen that before, and I thought that was very cool. But the thing with this is that like we've kind of seen this whole segment before because it happens in the game, and you're playing as Cal instead of playing as Obi-Wan.
Same thing happens. Like same exact thing happens.
Yeah.
Except it's not a.
He doesn't
hold,
and he doesn't hold.
Someone
the wall,
does
right?
hold the water. But it's Vader, which is cool. So it's a kind of
Oh,
cool.
right. That's right.
What is it, like a comparison or between the two? But the game, a blaster doesn't open the window. I think they pull it. Someone pulls it by force. I believe it's not Cal. I think, or someone is actually like pulling the windows, or like to like get away from Vader. They actually like try to sink the base. So it's a little bit more believable when they're like destroying the base with force. I'm pretty sure that's what happens.
Yeah, I have to go back and rewatch that scene and then kind of see. I'm sure someone has already put together like some YouTube side by side of like
sure
the
there's some
game and
juxtaposition,
Obi-Wan. Yeah. But I thought this was very cool. And then and then Tala somehow has like an overcoat, and she's like, "Here, put this on," and just like throws it to him. And the next scene that we see is them walking through the main section of this base. Everybody's in a mad panic. The third brother or the fifth brother is like, "Oh, you let everybody go, and like we have to, you really screwed up this time, Riva
Loser.
again." Yeah, and you really did it this time. He's gonna be so mad at you. And then they're walking, and then just like it's like Leia is in Obi-Wan's trench coat, like hugging his leg or something. She looks like a big bump. He just looks like a crazy old man next to this Imperial officer, and they're just shuffling through like nothing's happening, and no one even notices that they're gone. This is where it lost me. I could defend anything in this episode up until this point in my first watch. Now that I knew where we ended up, I think this is where I completely was like, I'm out. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever freaking seen. And I cannot believe that they put Leia underneath this coat. It was very BoJack Horseman of the two kids on top of each other in the trench coat.
Yeah.
And I'm
They
just
were
like,
just
this is like ridiculous.
Why are you so weird? They were trying to see the NC-17
Yeah.
cut of Star Wars, and they made Spice
Right.
Chicken slip her in.
I just couldn't believe that this is something someone was like, you know what we should do? Let's just put her in the overcoat and she'll be like a big and everyone's like, yeah, that's great. Let's go with that. Let's go with that. And then they went into their costume design and got this coat that didn't fit. I mean, it didn't fit. And then she's like peeking out from the I was like, this is too campy for me to even Matt, I think you really nailed it earlier when you said, Star Wars itself is hijinks, but this show makes it seem so serious and the tone is so serious and it feels like it's like life or death. This is not a solution in a life or death moment. This is just silly and it just takes you out of the show.
They had like a silly peek out moment, like you mentioned, to like, I guess, let the audience know that Leia's under there. Guess what, guys?
We know. Guess what? We know. We could see her. We could see her whole lumpy body in there.
We know who it is. We're aware. But exactly right. It's they're setting the tone real high. It's like very high stakes, and then it's just like boop, 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 it's that's in my head. That's like the music that should be happening.
Yeah.
But you know what? The scene would have been more believable to me if. There's alarms going off, but if everyone was running around frantically, I had scenes like that in the past, and where people things can be missed because everything is so chaotic, right? Or like there's an explosion happening, we gotta go, and like things can like slip by. But everyone was basically casually walking around while it's happening.
Like walking with a purpose, but not rushing or running around.
It should have been a little bit more panicked. If we were a little bit more panicked, I could have been fine with it. But it didn't feel panicked.
Tal's distraction was shit. Like, okay, sure. First of all, you're gonna like confront, like, obviously Rue was a good lie detector, like, and even if you were telling the truth, she wouldn't trust you. So you're basically gonna expose yourself, and then you're gonna go up to her and be like, by the way, I'm totally a secret agent. You know nothing about it, even though like this is your jurisdiction, but I've actually been working this whole time. I couldn't tell anybody. I'd be killed. By who? Who's gonna kill you for supervising the Jedi? Whatever.
Right.
Then on top of that, like set a fire in in another part of the building. You know what I mean? Or like bust a bunch of windows and have like it start flooding. We have
the whole thing flood
of the water. And on top of that, they've done better jobs of disguising like R2 and BB-8 than they did with Leia. Put Leia in a trash can. I don't know what is going on here. Right. What are we doing?
Right. It just seems so clunky and silly for a show that is maybe taking itself too seriously. If this is what it's gonna if this is what you want it to be, if you want a whole episode of or a whole season so far, we're 4 episodes in and all of the episodes so far have been about finding Leia. It's like it's essentially Mandalorian season 2, and instead of Mando and Baby Yoda, it's Obi-Wan and Leia, young Leia. It's almost like a carbon copy of like, oh, they took her and we have to get her back from the Empire. And it's kind of like, why are we doing this? We have a show where this is the point of the show. And this show shouldn't be that show. It doesn't enrich Obi-Wan's story to me at all. And I was really hoping that we would have gotten more of an insight of what Obi-Wan has been up to for all of these years and not just like one little mission that he had to go on and having like this Easter egg of it being about finding Leia.
Right. It shouldn't just be like a total chase scene throughout every single episode for Leia. 1 or 2 episodes of Leia, cool cameo, really good actor you picked, put her back home. And then continue the narrative where he figures out that Anakin is alive, right? And dealing with it in some way, or like having them interact in some way, or being like, I'm curious, how could he have survived? What's going on now that I've been in this hole for 10 years and I've been, basically casting away the Force and not really paying attention. I'm in the outer rim. I don't care. Now it's like, maybe I do care now. Let's go to this planet. Let me check. Let me talk to some people. Oh, they found out I'm alive. Shit. Like that could have been a really good direction instead of like every episode now is like, where's Leia?
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah, especially if we're gonna do like all this stunt casting of like having an actor to play Uncle Ben, whose name is escaping me, but like obviously I know he's important. And you have like Reva is such a good character. You have like Jimmy Smits is back, and you're stunt casting them for 1 episode when there is a lot to be said about the drama between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Uncle Owen. Like there's a lot of discourse to be had there, certainly. About Luke, I think you can go back to the Luke storyline very
Yes.
briefly, especially if you know that Anakin is alive. Wouldn't that freak you out so much more, knowing that Anakin is alive and that Luke could be found at any moment? I think that there are all these storylines that could exist. And I also think, wouldn't it be fun if, you know, he saves Leia, he ships her back to Alderaan, and then he goes like, so you were too scared, Miss Reva, to confront me, so you got a child to do your dirty work? Like, really? You know, like, where is the interesting conversations between the two of them? Because that's another a point. Reva and Obi-Wan have not really shared any scenes together. They've had the occasional scene, but they're not talking to each other directly. We've gotten to none of the heart of what I think we all expect to happen, which is that she's going to be like, the Jedi fucking suck. And he's going to be like, yeah, I know, man. Like, I saw it all happen. I'm not dumb.
Listen,
I know.
I know Yoda, okay? I know they suck. We were on the council together, okay?
Yeah, what if he just gave up
Trust
Yoda?
me.
Like, he just ratted on Yoda and be like, oh, look, I'll just trade you this information. You let me, like, get off the planet in this ship.
Listen, I got this guy sitting pretty. He has no idea what's coming. Just go get him and we're good. Anakin knows him too. So, you know, if anything, I'm going to go off on a tangent about Yoda. So I'll, let me pause myself. If anything, I would say Anakin has more of a bone to pick with Yoda than he should with Obi-Wan. But anyway, that's besides the point. So
Obi-Wan did cut off a bunch of his limbs.
Yeah, but you have done this to yourself. So
You've done that yourself.
Yeah. So we get this confrontation moment. Reva comes out with like some troopers behind her. We get a purge trooper, I believe they're called, which were also in Fallen Order, which is that what they're called? Yeah, they're called purge troopers, I believe.
Cool.
And they look very cool. I appreciate them. They were really hard to beat in the game. And we have this confrontation.
They're in the game. That's right. Okay,
yes,
very
they
cool.
were in the game.
Right.
We have this confrontation between Tala and Reva, kind of saying like, she calls traitor. She says, you know, this is all for an old man and a little girl. Like this, and now you're gonna die for nothing, essentially. And then in comes these two ships of our friend Wade the legend, and the other girl who I don't know if has a name in the show. I'm sure she does, but I don't know if we ever find it out. And they come in and they just start shooting and taking everybody out. And this is cool to me. And as much as I'm about to poke fun at Wade, there are things that I really didn't like about this. But what I really liked about this is that this is like the first time that we know of anyway, that there's been like a full attack on the Empire by these, I guess we can call them insurgents, right? They're just a small group. And this is like the beginning of the rebellion. And this is like Leia sees it, and we know where Leia goes in the rebellion later on. And I just think that this is like a very cool starting point for what's obviously to come down the line. And what we see in Rogue One and these little kind of like splinter cells of rebels throughout the galaxy. I just think it's very cool that it goes from helping people escape to now like, okay, we really have to help people escape because we have these ships with guns on them and we're going to use them.
Yeah. Does Star Wars Rebels, do you know that? I don't remember the time period or whether like how close it is to.
It definitely takes place after this, but I don't know how far.
Yeah, maybe it's like the first instance of like a group of rebels. That is cool. The part where they come in with, I guess the snow speeders, which is an odd choice. I mean, they're really tiny cockpits. I know you've seen them in Hoth. They're very small. So like, how are they fitting in here? But one of the CGI parts was a little bit rough, when they were coming in. But I thought the scene was cool. I just thought that maybe they were trying to be like, oh, these are not like fighters. They don't have like fighter, planes.
Scrappy.
Have,
they're
like,
being scrappy and
utility,
using what they have.
But I thought it was cool. I thought the Reva running was weird. I don't.
Yeah, we have a lot of
running,
issues with the running in this
Obi-Wan
show.
Running, Reva running, the walking from the Grand Inquisitor in the first episode. There's a lot of walking issues. Even the third brother, or not the third brother. I think it's a third.
Fifth
brother. Yeah. He was walking weird with his big shoes. I was like, what's going on with this walking? Something about the walking in this is really weird.
Flea and his crew running after Leia. I mean, we'll never forget. We'll never forget that scene.
Honey.
Yes. It's just straight. Yeah, they got to work on the running or like the choreography of these scenes a little bit.
It seemed like Reva, her costume was so not not tight, but like she couldn't move in it so well that she was running awkwardly.
Limited mobility
like
in that costume,
exactly.
yeah.
Like she had limited mobility. So I don't know.
To me, the funniest part of this scene was when she's like, for a little girl and an old man. I think it is well established in Star Wars how important these characters are, right? The
Also,
idea
like,
of
what are you doing, Riva, over this little girl and this old man? Look
Little
at what you're
girl.
doing. You killed the Grand Inquisitor over this little girl and this old man.
the daughter of a senator and a Jedi Knight, and you're gonna
Right.
sit there and say, like,
Yeah.
he's just kind of an old fucking man. Then what are you doing, girl? You should retire then if you're just chasing an old man that has nothing to do with
Yes.
like bringing light and safety to the Force or whatever, man. Chill out then. Go on vacation. Because what the fuck does that mean? That they're
Exactly.
just nobodies. I laughed so hard because I was like, that is the antithesis of why she's chasing them. That makes no sense. She knows how important these characters are, and she's like, "Oh, you're just gonna save an old man? Like, what are you doing?" Oh my god!
Yeah.
I was like, I can't deal with this episode. That is when it really lost me. Was
Yeah.
when they were just like, whatever. And also, what is this escape plan? Like, was this escape plan established earlier? How were they gonna get out of the base before?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't seem like there was a lot of logic here.
Yeah, this is a little rough for me too. I'm choosing to just not think too hard about it. I'm assuming that this is what Wade and his friends were talking about in the beginning, and when they were planning and Obi-Wan decided to go and Tala went. I assume they did a lot of planning off screen. I don't know how they're communicating with each other. Maybe they have some speakerphones that Tala used. I don't know. I'm just hoping that there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that we didn't need to see to make it make sense. But I know really in reality they just didn't think about it.
There's one thing we actually didn't touch on, which is when Tala was going in and trying to get into the base, and she's like, "You call me sir, motherfucker," and he's like, "Yeah," where he's like, "Well, should I tell the Grand Inquisitor?" So I don't know if that was a reference to him still being alive, or if she's just trying to like show up and be like, "I know him, so you better." Like that's like the only notion that we have of him potentially not being dead. We know that he's not dead in extended media for Rebels, right? But
unless they retcon that for
they
some
could,
reason.
but I find that really weird. Do you think that we're going to get any other notion of him not being
Yeah, I think
dead?
they're gonna have to explain it. They're gonna have
I
to.
bet you they don't. That'd be fun.
I think they're gonna have to.
That's like such a also like an insane detail of like, okay, so she can just strong arm her way onto the base. Like, wouldn't it be more interesting if like he's like, I'm the head of security, and she's like, all right, well, I'm allowed to be here. What is the formality here? Who is in charge? Like, if he's the head of security, like, shouldn't he just be like, okay, great, you pass, go on through? Like, I didn't like the fake tension in that scene. I liked the tension leading up to it, and it was just like, you're not allowed to be here. Like, okay, what's the point of being in the Empire if you can't go to an Empire base? What, you can't just go to a different office? I don't understand.
Yeah, like what did he see that was causing him to sit there and stare for so long? Unexplained.
Yeah. She also kills a bunch of other people this episode. And like she kills them pretty easily. Like the guy who like is like, hey, can you come over here? And then she just strangles him in the back of the room while everyone else.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Though.
Okay. Okay, go off. Like girl power, but like nobody notices that dead body. Like I don't understand.
Right.
He's in the closet.
Yeah.
No one opens the utility closet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's there's a lot in this episode.
There is a lot in this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot. At this point, though, we're getting Riva fighting with Wade. And she's using her lightsaber. I didn't love the scene. I thought it looked a little stupid. But she's shooting the blaster gunfire back to the ship. And Wade's friend is like, Wade, come on, we gotta go. And he's like, okay, right behind you. Wade's dead. And she's like, Wade! And it's like the most tragic death in all of Star Wars history. They get on the ship that they're leaving and that they're going to, or wherever they get to. And the guy from the beginning, whose name, again, I also don't know, is like, where's Wade? And they're just, everybody's mourning Wade. It's like the most tragic loss of all time.
He's like, hey guys, how'd it go?
Hey, where's Wade? Where's Wade? Where's Wade? And they're all just like, Wade. So rest in peace to Wade. We barely knew ye.
But this to me is like what they do with Rose Tico in Last Jedi, but they do
This
it
is
better in
exactly
Last
what
Jedi.
it felt like. Yeah, this is exactly what
Where
it
at
felt
the
like.
very least we have a scene of them independent from the main characters, where they're working together and they're like trying to help this moment. And she actually has a death that means something, because we
Yes.
see the relationship established in the scene. This is just like but we've seen this a million times. We've seen a million people in their little in their little cockpit talking to somebody else and then getting blowed up. This is not
Yeah.
new. And so it is
Yeah.
no more impactful than the last 20 people who've been blown up in a little plane in Star Wars.
I also find it funny because they like murdered a lot of stormtroopers.
Yeah.
They came in and
They
just
came in
laid
hot.
waste to the
Yeah.
stormtroopers. They killed like 50 people. Like 50
At least,
people.
at
You know,
least,
and they're
if
like,
not
oh,
more.
we're not soldiers. We're not soldiers. We don't do this. But they killed like 50 people, and then like Wade dies, and it's like, it's pretty great.
Yeah, it's yes. In the beginning of the episode, and I think this is probably something that I probably should have called out a little earlier, but they specifically, when they're planning this escape and kind of like attacking this base, they're like, we're not soldiers here. We're just like helping people. They
Right.
specifically say we're not soldiers. And they get back on the base, and Wade's gone, but not forgotten. And Tala's like, how does it feel to be soldiers? Or I guess you're soldiers now, or how does it feel to be soldiers? And everybody's mourning. And this to me is kind of like, it's really hitting home to them that they took this to the next level. And that's the impact I got from it, is that like these people weren't really prepared for, they started something that they couldn't really finish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now it's like they took it to the next level. They kind of waged war on their government. And it feels like it's really just hitting home right now what they did and the sacrifice that they made. And that I felt was impactful. If they did that in a little bit of a more, I don't know, a clean way or something, or didn't focus it so much around Wade himself, the man, the myth, I just don't, I don't know why we focus so much on Wade. It's weird.
They were trying to create a
To
heavy
me.
scene, and they didn't have any character development to actually do that. So it
Maybe
was a
it's
bit.
because his name is Wade that it's
Maybe.
just like, Wade's like not really a Star Wars name. It's just like a
Dan!
weird.
Dan.
Yeah.
That would be cool, too.
Oh, Jim. Even Jim. I feel like it's like, I don't know. Yeah.
I started doing this bit with my boyfriend where I was texting. I gotta find it. Like taking American cities and just putting a space in, changing the way like, the space might be, and then making it a new Star Wars planet.
Oh, I love this.
I gotta find it. Oh yeah, like he says, I'm pretty sure this planet that Obi-Wan went to, this is episode 3, is just New Mexico. And I said, we have to catch the next transport to Santa Fe. And it became Los Alamos, Albuquerque. Yeah, like it just, you could play this game at home, folks listening.
Oh, I
where you
love
just take
this.
a city and then change it. But like Wade is one of those things where like Wade should have like a first name or some other name that is quirky and spacey to make up for the fact that his name is Wade. What is going on here?
I think it's like maybe it's just like the one syllable of it all, and it's just like the dramatizing of it. Wade, no, wait, come on, Wade, we gotta go right behind you. You're not. Well, you are still right behind you. You're just dead
Forever, right behind you
great.
forever.
Yeah, right behind you forever.
Wedge
It's great to
Antilles,
see
now Wade.
Wade.
It's great to see a meme in real time. You know what I mean? Like
It
it's
is
great
good.
to experience a Star Wars meme happening in real time.
This
You're
I felt
right.
like is the true first Star Wars meme that I am a part of from its inception, because I saw the sequels and like you're seeing them in the movie theaters and you're like, man, this is not great. It's weird. There's a lot of weird stuff here. It's like shirtless Kylo, but like, then the internet takes it and makes it a thing. I feel like watching this and just seeing Wade and just being like, Wade, and then everybody on the internet having the same exact, like, who's Wade? Why is everybody freaking out Wade? And then everybody having the same exact reaction. I'm like, this is why being extremely online is fulfilling to the soul, because like all of these people are on the same page about this stupid meme of Wade, and people aren't letting it go. And I kind of love it.
I bet you they'll do a backstory on him in some
That's
way.
what a lot of the
keep seeing
comments
that
are like,
online.
Wade, a
They
Star
probably
Wars
will just for
story.
fun now.
He'll be in a comic somewhere. At least he'll be in a comic. Or a game.
I want to say too, by the way, before I forget, that I don't I don't remember an instance of any character blocking blasters from a ship with a lightsaber before. Like smaller ones with a rifle, sure, all the time. But I don't know if I've ever seen it of like an actual space, because they're much bigger, you know, like an actual spacecraft blocking with that. Like they seem to be, the force would be a lot. Not that I'm trying to like science make this a science thing because it's Star Wars, but I don't know. I don't think we've ever seen that on a show or a movie before for Star Wars, like blocking an actual ship blast. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I guess
Also,
Reva's
do you
just
think they have
strong.
like Jedi shot put competitions? Because Reva chucked that battery. She really
She
flung the
did.
shit out of that.
Yeah, she really did. She really did.
There's a lot of people online who are like, when the transport flew away in episode 2, were like, why didn't she just try to like force pull it back and, you know, like, or at least hold it? Because we've seen instances of that.
Yeah.
And I was almost getting flashbacks of that in this episode where it's like, what are you doing? Like, try to, but, you know, that kind of made, it was throwing that.
Well, they would have just caught Wade, you know? They wouldn't have.
Well, that's what everyone wants.
Everybody wants Wade. Everybody loves Wade. I mean, getting Wade would have given them, she probably could have screwed up with Wade's head and gotten the information.
That's
probably way
true.
more information from Wade than she would have gotten from Leia. She was putting so much work into this
You don't
10-year-old
know
that
how
really doesn't
mentally
know
strong
anything.
Wade is.
That's true. I really don't know anything about Wade at all, which is unfortunate because it seems like everybody really loved him.
You will
He was
soon.
very beloved. Yeah, we'll have to wait for Wade, a Star Wars story.
We'll have to wait.
A Star Wade story to come out. But yeah, we get a scene of everybody kind of just like sitting in silence and mourning on the ship. And when Wade gets away and then he blows up, we get a nice Vader breath in the background, and we see really angry Vader walking through the hallway, speed walking through the hallway with those legs, really, those prosthetic legs are really booking it to the hallway, which I actually really like when Vader is pissed. Like, I think it's very cool. And he's hardcore force choking Reva. And part of me was like, we could see Reva die this episode. I maybe wouldn't be surprised if like this was it for Reva. But it wasn't. She starts talking and he lets her go. And he kind of says to her, I wrote it down. He says, I will tolerate your weakness no longer. You were warned what defeat would bring. And she tries to speak and she says, I put a tracker on the ship. And he goes, I guess I underestimated you. And then the fifth brother is like, wait, hold the phone here. She almost destroyed the whole fucking base. And she really fucked this shit up. And she goes, Kenobi's all that matters. Okay, you had Kenobi. He was on fire and you let him go. And now you need the tracker on the ship to find him again. I just don't understand. I don't understand.
When did this become about finding the rebel base? Also, like,
yes,
that was not
that's the other thing.
Plot point that was established whatsoever in the first 3 episodes. But now it's like a convenience thing. But we've never. She says like I put a tracker on it, but we never have the conversation of like, hey, Darth Vader, I know I let you down. I will not only get you Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah,
I'll get you the whole path. Rebels.
Yeah,
right. Not much.
Nothing.
Not once.
She says we'll not only have Kenobi, we'll have the path to, or so, you know, soon we'll have, but it's like, does he even care about that? Does anybody? I mean, I guess like the Inquisitors care because their whole job is to hunt down force sensitive people, but like seemed like the real deal here was that he wanted to find Obi-Wan. And now I don't know. You're right though. It is weird. They're kind of like changing the story on us in real time here with this base. I don't know. But Vader seems pleased. He's like, oh, you put a tracker? You're sure? You sure about that? You sure? And she's like, yeah, no, I got it. Don't worry. And he's like, okay. I know I almost killed you, but you know what? You're good with me now. We're good.
All right.
I've calmed down.
You're
I've calmed down.
For another
calmed
day.
Down.
Good work. Yeah. Punch your clock. We're moving on to the next planet.
Yeah, why don't you knock off a little early, Reva? Go get a nice dinner. Great work.
Ooh. I will say his voice is a lot better than it is in Rogue One. Rogue One was like very disappointing. But you know, Jason Jones is old, so I get it. But they definitely did some fluff up work, some processing after for sure, because it sounds much better. I thought it was really. I love the Vader power walk. You very rarely see Vader move faster than a slow, menacing trot.
Yeah, so he was really booking it.
He was going
booking it.
I have to say, if you know, I assume this is Hayden in the suit. I did think that this was a good performance in the suit, which is such a shame that I have to sit there and watch a guy whose face I can't see and go, actually, I thought that the way that he clenched his hand was very intimidating.
That's exactly what my thought. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
he's doing a really good job with that hand.
Yeah.
But like, I'm
Yeah.
trying to look for something because I like Hayden Christensen, so
Yeah.
I want this redemption arc for him. But in a way that he's not acting, it's almost like the pressure's off him and it's on other characters, and he's the only cool part about it. So it's kind of like, all right, you know? Like,
yeah, that's true. You can't really criticize him for his acting when he's not doing any of it.
Exactly.
He's just in a suit.
It's
So
kind of a
this is
win-win
like
for
the
him.
best. Yeah, it's a win-win. He gets to come back. He gets a paycheck. He doesn't have to get made fun of anymore. But listen, Hayden, you're doing great, sweetie. You're doing great. We love you. Shout out to you. My favorite Jedi.
I do want to see him speak, though. I would love to see him speak.
Yeah, me too.
I want the dead to speak.
Yes.
Yeah, we need at least one. We gotta have a flashback. We have to have something. But we cut back to the ship, and Leia and Obi-Wan are having a little bonding moment. They're holding hands. She kind of gives him like a little smirk, and I'm like, I don't know what you're smirking about. Like, this was a really tragic thing that just happened. Why are you smirking? This is like weird.
Didn't like it one. First of all, you don't know this man, Leia. You don't know this. It would be nice if she like leaned her head against his shoulder, right? Why are they holding hands? Why does she bring his hand closer to her? You don't really know this man. You didn't trust him 2 days ago. Like, this is an adult stranger, Leia, and this is why you got kidnapped in the fucking first place. Like, stop being like, obviously it's supposed to be nice, but it was just like, it kept being like, why are they holding hands? Why
Yeah, the
is
hand was like a little. Maybe we're being weird about it, but I thought it was. I was kind of like, this seems like very loving for two people that like don't really know each other, who aren't related, and who are an adult and a child.
Twice.
I know, but it's just, it was like a little, I don't know. She also like smirked at him weird. I don't know. The whole time I'm like, what are you smirking about?
I found it to be a little childlike when they're also trying to make her seem old for her age in a way. So it was kind of like counteractive to like how they're pushing her as a character. So I don't know.
just gonna say this, Matt. You're so smart. I was just gonna say this.
You think how I think?
You're so smart because you have my ideas.
Yeah.
Is that if wouldn't it be great if we saw Leia traumatized from what she just experienced in some way? If she was crying, or if she's like, I want to go home.
Yeah, let's traumatize her. Let's traumatize her.
Let's fuck her up a little bit. No, but
yeah,
like, if she was,
let's give her some lifelong trauma.
If she was
had
scared,
too much shelter.
if she was frightened, and she thought Obi-Wan was dead, and she thought she had no hope, and she was gonna die on this planet, and then look, everything's okay. If she had like that emotional release where she's had to be strong for this whole episode, and then finally she can be relaxed and be like, oh my god, I was scared. That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful to see. Like, yeah, she is still a child, because I think that that's a big theme of what episode 1 was all about. That Anakin is still a child. That these things are happening to children who need to grow up very fast and experience a lot of trauma very quickly. And wouldn't it be nice if she like cried to Obi-Wan a little bit? One emotional moment, because yes, she's been too smart and snappy, and it feels weird for her to then be like, thanks, Obi-Wan, for being my friend. Let's hold hands.
Yeah. I was trying to show like a little bit of vulnerability on her character, but it kind of like, that's a great point. They definitely should have showed her at least like a bit upset. Like, there's a lot of traumatic things that just happened to her. So this girl that they're introducing is a very sheltered person who has never left her planet, who runs away to have some excitement in the woods, right? But a lot of traumatic stuff has happened over the past few days, and like, she's kind of barely showing any emotion here. I don't think that's a fault of the actor at all, but maybe just how the scene was created, whatever.
I kind of took this almost as her comforting him instead of him comforting. That's the way, because she like initiated and she's like looking at him and she can see that he's like upset. And I took it as her like consoling him.
She doesn't care about Wade.
Yeah, no, she doesn't give a shit about Wade. But she knew Obi-Wan knew Wade for like a minute. So he's really hurting over this. So, she's like, who the fuck is Wade? Who's Wade? But I kind of got that vibe of like, this is like really heavy right now. And now she just like kind of maybe is like reminding them that they're safe, even though they're not safe. Because we get Lola squeaking out of the bag. And then she turns on and her eyes are red. Poor her Lola. Little eye, her light is red. So she's evil now. Red
No!
means evil. Red means bad. She used to be blue. That meant good. Now she's red. That means bad.
That's
So
true.
Lola's bad, and Lola's the tracker. So when Riva apparently, and I paid very close attention to this the second time I watched it, didn't see anything that Riva could have done that would have put a tracker in Lola, but she's holding it and she's kind of going like this with her hands, like just playing with it. So I guess she had a tracker somewhere in her hand and just stuck it in. I don't know. We didn't see it. There's no explanation for it, but it's in Lola.
Poor Lola.
Poor Lola.
My boyfriend did correctly predict this like minutes earlier. He was like, I mean, it's gonna be in the robot, it's gonna be in the droid. And I was like, oh, you're totally right. Like,
I didn't even
damn
think about
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's exactly where it's gonna be. But at the same time, my issue again is like, what is the plan here? I hate coincidence. I hate
Yeah.
when things are very clearly like, there's always that like, there's a great screenwriting technique of like, your script shouldn't be like, but then like the way you have to do it is like, because of this happens, because of this happens. And
Yeah.
so much of what's happening in this sequence is such coincidence and such luck, and it just doesn't feel like our heroes are actually doing something intelligent or actually
Totally.
like achieving something. And it's such a shame because like, it's fucking Ewan McGregor, you know what I mean? It is like hot ass in his robes holding a lightsaber, back at it again, can
Yeah.
act his ass off, Ewan McGregor, and we're not getting anything from him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boo.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Big time boo. We're like kind of like wasting this amazing opportunity. There's rumors online that we're getting a second season of this show, and I'm kind of like, what? Why? I thought this was supposed to be a limited series
Right.
of 6 episodes. And again, a lot of people online are also saying the same thing. I thought these episodes are supposed to be around an hour long.
Yeah, that's
They've
what they
all
said.
been around a half an hour long. So people are thinking maybe they extracted some of the show and are going to move it into the second season. I don't know. But yeah, I hate to think that maybe we're wasting the Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan in this way. And I know this is just a down episode for me. So typically, as kind of we said at the top, I've been much more positive about the show. I'm hoping that I can be positive again. But just episodes like this make me it just gives me sequel flashbacks, and it just makes me feel like we're really not thinking and we're just doing things just as a cash grab. And I don't want that. I mean, I'm happy to have Star Wars on my screen. I'm happy to have Ewan McGregor on my screen. I'm happy to have Hayden Christensen in a suit. I'm happy to have Wade in any way that we can get him. Shout out to Wade. But I just don't know, like, I just wish maybe like if you guys weren't ready, let's just like take Wait a beat and put it out a little bit later and flesh it out a little bit more, because these characters aren't new except for Wade and Riva. Obviously, they're beloved characters. Please let us not tarnish their legacy, especially Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is like truly a legendary character. We can't ruin the Obi-Wan legacy with a show that's half thought through.
Right. Doing it just to do it. That's the whole point. Don't do things just to do them. It just is, this is the whole this is the theme of everything they've been doing with Star Wars except for The Mandalorian. Really, the only like original thing. I think doing it just to do it. Boba Fett, doing it just to do it. This series, doing it just to do it. All the sequels. It's like, if you don't have a story to tell, do not make something, right?
Yeah.
Get a story first. Get it signed. I don't know. It just, to me, it's just like, it's just so annoying. Oh, my series.
Well, that's capitalism, baby.
Yeah.
Also, what a bad sign that this podcast has been almost quadruple the length of the episode. Like,
yeah, it's true. When I was talking to Matt about coming on, he was like, "How long?" And I was like, "I don't know, maybe like an hour and a half at most." The episode was 25 minutes long. And what else could we have to talk about? We had a lot to say today because there was a lot to rant and rave about in this episode.
Good therapy session, I would say, overall.
Much needed vent session about this. And it, watching it a second time, as I was watching it the first time and I was going through it, I was kind of like, okay, that was like weird, but it was not that big of a deal. Okay, this is weird. And like I said, like as soon as Leia was in the overcoat, I was like, I'm out. Watching it the second time, already knowing how much I didn't like it the first time and like thinking about it and reading about it, I was kind of like, this is a really bad episode of television, really bad storytelling. It's just bad. I don't really have a lot of positive to say about it. The visuals are amazing. The lightsaber stuff was amazing. The Obi-Wan Force stuff was amazing. Give us more of that kind of stuff. less of the hijinks and the chasing and the speakerphones and the breaking into an Empire base. Like, we've seen it all before. Give us something new and exciting.
Ladies and
Yep.
gentlemen, put your phones onto silent. You know, take your
Yeah.
speakerphone off.
Just check your pockets. Make sure you have your AirPods with you.
Make sure they're charged.
It's like an essential. It's
Yeah.
an essential need for a rescue like this.
Yeah, and at the very least, you know, like if you're gonna have a droid and an evil person hold on to it, maybe leave that droid behind. You know,
You know, just
never
like, check it. Check it when you get on the ship, and like if you need to throw it out, or have Obi-Wan. What I'm predicting happens here is that Obi-Wan notices it or something, because we got that scene of him fixing the droid. I think he's gonna take the tracker out of it, and maybe, like, I don't know, something's gonna happen with it. But yeah, just check your droids, check your
Yeah,
bags,
Obi-Wan
check your
is like,
pockets, check your droids when you leave after being around like a nefarious character. Just
yeah,
do your
why
due
are the droid
diligence.
glowing bright red, Leia?
Yeah.
I
No,
want
my droid didn't look like
going
this
on?
before.
In a
Something seems
genius
different
way.
here.
Let's
Yeah.
put a track on this droid.
Yeah, I guess Lola's in a bad mood. She's red now instead of blue. I've never seen that before.
I also like calling the droid Lola. One, because it looks like a bunny, so then I think about Lola Bunny, but also two, because Lola is the song that Weird Al parodied to make the song Yoda. Like, it's just like such an odd name for a droid when there's that many sort of weird like connections in the ether.
Yes, I totally agree.
That song slaps, by the way. Yeah, I know you hate Yoda, Katie, but you can't hate Yoda by Weird Al.
You can't hate anything by Weird Al.
I don't know if I know Yoda by Weird Al off the top of my head. I know.
Yoda,
No, okay. I don't know if I've heard it. I know.
Yoda.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yoda.
We're gonna get copyright struck.
Yeah, we're going to DMCA.
Yeah, Weird Al's not going to DMCA us, all right? Weird Al's
Yeah,
like,
Weird Al, if anybody is
I don't
gonna.
think
Yeah,
Weird Al's not
Weird
gonna
Al
go after us.
encourages our creativity.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's right. I mean, that's the all of his music is based on other stuff, so why can't we just use
it's true. It's true. I
Mm.
wish we could play My, this dear Anakin guy. I don't know the name of the song of that song.
The American Pie parody? I don't know what
Yeah,
I don't know what
what
it's
is it
actually
called?
called either.
From the Phantom Menace. It's the Phantom
There's
Menace.
something in parentheses too.
Oh.
It's like a longer title.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some deal in
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a good one. Okay, guys. Well, we have 2 episodes left of this show. I'm not super optimistic of where we're going to end because it seems like we've been rushing this far. But hopefully next week is similar to episode 3, because episode 3 to me was incredible. So I hope we get more of that. Hope we get more Vader. Anything you guys are hoping to see? Any predictions? Any final thoughts before we wrap it up here? To Naomi's point, we've been talking for 4 times longer than the actual episode length.
I think it would just be very funny if we rushed through this whole goddamn thing, and then at the end, like Mace Windu's hand just like shot up out of the depths of the city of Coruscant, or
Like
something.
Carrie, when they go visit. When I was a kid, I watched Carrie, the Stephen King movie, at a sleepover party, and at the end of that movie, she's buried, and it says like "Rotten Hell, Carrie" or something like that. And I felt so bad for her. I like cried as a little kid because I thought that was so mean. And then like her hand comes up out of the thing. I think her hand comes up, right? I don't even
I don't think
remember.
it does.
Yeah.
It
Does
does,
it?
doesn't it?
Maybe
I don't
I
know.
don't. I actually don't know because I was too chicken. But I would love to do is a cut of like Carrie coming out of the thing, and then you know how like they have like that Marvel fans reaction, but they put different things on the screen like that. That would be fun. Or lose their
Yeah.
mind over it. Yeah.
Well, in my head canon, her hand comes up, but I just want to share the embarrassing story of me crying because people wrote "Rotten Hell, Carrie" or "Burn in Hell" or whatever. I was like, "That's so sad. She's dead." All right. Well,
And Anakin's your favorite Jedi. We get it. Yeah.
yeah.
We know who Katie's rooting for.
You see a pattern? Yeah. Yeah.
They were driven to it.
They were. Okay. We'll talk about it another time. Okay. Well, if no final thoughts, I know I cut you guys off, so feel free to share them if you have.
Hoping for the
Otherwise,
best.
yeah, hoping for the best. Fingers crossed. Matt, where can people find you on the internet these days? Anything to plug? Anything you would like to say? Thank you for joining us today. This was a little
Yeah.
last minute, but very fun.
Last minute.
Thanks for having me. This was fun. I don't know. I stream sometimes at twitch.tv/glances. That's about it.
Okay.
Thanks for having me, though. This was fun.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you for joining us. Naomi, what do you got going on these days?
I have to go edit the final episode of the season of Quickfire Queens. Top Chef Houston has wrapped up. We talked about the finale. It is really fun, and I love Nicole and Gia very much. We decided to conclude an episode. I am hoping that in later June, I will be coming to Silent Podcast to talk about Taskmaster Champion of Champions. So that is in the works. If you like Taskmaster and you want to hear about it, DM me and assure me that I am not just speaking into the void.
I'm sure you're not. There are a lot of fans of that show.
Other than that, you can follow me on Twitter at Naomi Calhoun, and you can tune into me talking about live reality games over the Live Reality Games Podcast Network, where we talk about Fake Survivor all the time. So join me doing that. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thanks, Naomi. You can find me at Real Slim Katie on Twitter and on Instagram. I don't do too much on Instagram, but feel free. You're more than welcome to pop a follow if you would like to. You can also find me on twitch.tv/Real Slim Katie with an underscore at the end, where I do a little streaming, a little chatting, a little gaming, very casual, easy vibe over there. So feel free to pop in and drop a follow there if you would like to. It's free to do so if you would like to show some support. Other than that, you can find me on Silent Podcasts in a few different places. You can find me on The Cool Water Show, talking all things Real Housewives universe. You can find me on some postseason Big Brother Canada coverage that we put out over the last week and a half, 2 weeks. We've had some really great postseason interviews with Kevin, Herman, Summer. So definitely check those out. They gave us a lot of good stuff, and it's not so much. It is very game related, but it's also very personality related. We get to know them as more than just kind of like game bots, and we get to know them as people. So,
do you have a favorite detail that you've learned from those podcasts?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question.
We watch them so much, we watch their lives and watch them dance on television for us without even knowing it for so long. And then it's just like, it's so crazy that you guys get to talk to them. I love that so much.
It's so true. And it's so weird because it's like they get on the call with you and you feel like you actually know them, but they have no idea who we are. And we don't know them either, but we sit and we watch live feeds of them all day, every day. My favorite thing that I probably learned, oh man, I don't know. I feel like Kevin's whole interview, he was just so gracious with his time with us. And he was just so genuinely happy to be talking to fans of the show who really watch the show and understand it at the same kind of level that he watches it. Okay, something fun. We told him that the three of us, Isaiah, Josie, and myself, had met in orgs and minis and voting each other out, and how we were so excited to see someone who's like really a fan of strategy play a game like this. And he was like, as someone who has played those games myself, and you understand. And I was like, oh. Did we just break news that Kevin has played a mini or an org? Because he was like,
Wow.
The game moves very quickly and the strategy. And I'm like, oh, so you know what you're talking about, which I thought was really interesting. Because I don't know if I've ever heard him talk about that anywhere else. So I thought that was very cool. Even if it's like a mafia game or something like that, it's fun to know that we are nerds and the people on the show are nerds with us, some of them. And it's fun. And I love that we can all kind of relate on that level.
Wow.
So definitely check those out. They're really good conversations.
Is upon us. The org social strategy game players uprising. Here it comes.
It's true. If the safety chain has anything to say about it, it's coming. It's coming. We also just wrapped up, Carrie and I, our coverage of the Real World Homecoming New Orleans. We finished our last episode yesterday. The finale aired. We're very sad to see it go. It was very bittersweet. We had such an amazing time covering the season. We also super, super excitingly got to talk to Melissa today from the Real World New Orleans and the Real World Homecoming New Orleans. She, if you know me, you may know that she is my favorite reality star of literally all time. And she slid into our DMs because she found our podcast and really loved the conversation that we were having about the show, which is very embarrassing because I was fangirling over her as if no one could hear me this whole time. We had an amazing conversation with her earlier today. We talked to her for about 2 hours. We may or may not have made brunch plans for after the fact because we have so much more to talk about. And she kind of was like, I want to find a show that I can binge so I can talk to you guys about it. So we would love to talk to Melissa again. She was incredible. So kind of like on cloud nine about that. So check that out. We're posting it probably this weekend. We just have a little bit of editing to do, but that took place today. So really exciting way to wrap up this Real World Homecoming season with a nice, exciting little bow. So that's where you can find us. Let me show you also where you can find Silent Podcasts. Let me bring up this little banner here. So you can go ahead and follow Silent Podcasts on all your social media platforms at Silent Podcasts. On Twitch, you can find us streaming some of our content there at Silent Podcasts. You can follow us and subscribe to us on YouTube, leave a comment or a like if you would like to at Silent Podcasts. You can also follow us on Twitter at silent_podcasts. We're doing a ton. We just introduced a ton of new, really awesome talent that are going to start joining us on some shows soon. I think we already had some new faces on the Challenge podcast last week, which is really exciting. So definitely check us out. We're doing a ton of different coverage. We have a lot of shows in the works, so follow us there. Also, feel free to leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. It'll help us get discovered in their silly little algorithm there. So if you would like to leave us 5 stars or leave a nice little comment, it would be much appreciated. Thank you all, as always, for listening and for the support. And we're always open to your feedback. So feel free to reach out to us on any of the social media platforms mentioned and let us know if there's anything you would like us to cover or if you're mad at us about anything that we said in the show.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
May or may not hate Yoda, tweet at us.
Yeah, please feel free to come at me for my opinion of hating Yoda. I love to talk to people about it. Oh yeah, and also go ahead and join the subreddit r/fuck Yoda. Thank you guys so much. We will be back next week with episode 5. We only have 2 episodes left. Fingers crossed. That's only up from here. Thank you guys so much, and have a great rest of your night, day, evening, afternoon, morning. Bye. Bye.